Jina Aurelio was a 32-year-old pediatric nurse who lived in Richmond, Virginia. She worked at St. Mary's Hospital, where she was known for her kindness and dedication to her young patients. Jina was loved by everyone who knew her. She had a warm smile and a gentle touch that made children feel better, even when they were very sick. Jina lived in a cozy suburban neighborhood with her husband, David, and their 2 children, Delta, aged 7, and Spirit, aged 5. The family was often seen at local events, like the annual Greek festival or enjoying weekends at Belle Isle. Jina was also a member of the Richmond Runners Club and participated in community events like the Ukrop's Monument Avenue 10K. She had a deep passion for health and fitness. Jina enjoyed morning runs and yoga. Every day, she would start with a smoothie from Jamba Juice before heading out for her jog. Her friends and colleagues often saw her as a role model for living a balanced and healthy life. Jina's favorite smoothie was the Green Goodness, packed with kale, spinach, and a hint of apple juice. Jina grew up in Richmond and went to John Marshall High School. She later attended Virginia Commonwealth University, where she studied nursing. She was known for being an excellent student, always eager to learn. After graduating, Jina immediately started working at St. Mary's Hospital and quickly became a valued member of the team. Jina's widowed mother, Karen Ander, was a retired school teacher who lived nearby and often helped with the kids. The family had a close-knit relationship, spending holidays and weekends together. Jina's friends described her as someone who always put others first. She was the kind of person who would drop everything to help a friend in need. In the days before her death, Jina was planning a big family vacation to Hawaii. She had just finished a tough certification course in pediatric care, and she was excited to take a break and spend quality time with her family. Jina was also looking forward to Halloween, helping her kids pick out costumes and planning a neighborhood party. Jina's dreams included opening her own pediatric clinic one day. She wanted to create a place where children could receive not only medical care but also emotional support. She often talked about her ideas with her colleagues and was actively working on a business plan. Her sudden death was a shock to everyone who knew her, leaving a huge void in the community and her family. Jina Aurelio was a bright light whose life was tragically cut short. On the morning of September 12, 2014, the weather in Richmond, Virginia was mild and sunny. Around 8 o'clock a.m., Jina Aurelio's neighbor, Kelly Ray Clarkson, set out for her own morning walk in Bird Park. Kelly was an acquaintance of Jina's and knew that Jina often jogged there. As she walked along the familiar path, she saw a figure lying on the ground near a bench. As Kelly got closer, she recognized Jina's running shoes and felt a sudden chill. Jina was motionless. Kelly rushed to her side, calling out her name, but there was no response. Panic set in as Kelly realized something was terribly wrong. She quickly pulled out her phone and dialed 911. Her voice was trembling as she spoke to the operator.
911, what's your emergency?
Please, you have to send help. My friend, she's not moving. I think she's dead. We're in Bird Park, near the big fountain.
Kelly's distress was palpable, and the dispatcher tried to calm her down, assuring her that help was on the way. Kelly waited, feeling helpless and scared, staying by Jina's side until the paramedics arrived. When the paramedics reached the scene, they confirmed what Kelly had feared. Jina was dead. The news quickly spread through the park, and onlookers gathered, whispering in shock. The area was soon cordoned off with yellow police tape as detectives arrived to investigate. Kelly was in a state of shock, sitting on the grass with a blanket around her shoulders, provided by one of the paramedics. She couldn't stop shaking, her mind racing with questions about what had happened. She had seen Jina just the day before, and everything seemed normal. Now, nothing made sense. Local news stations, like WORIC and NBC12, began reporting the story, and soon it was all over social media. People in the community were stunned. Jina was well known and loved, and the idea that she could be gone so suddenly was hard to accept. The park, usually a place of joy and relaxation, had become the scene of a tragedy. As the sun continued to rise, casting long shadows over the quiet park, the police began their meticulous work. Kelly was taken to the police station to give a statement, still trying to process the morning's horrific events. By evening, the story had made headlines in local newspapers, including the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Everyone wanted to know how such a terrible thing could happen to someone like Jina. When the police arrived at Bird Park on the morning of September 12, 2014, they acted quickly. Detective Marcus Merritt, A seasoned officer known for his careful approach led the team. Alongside him was Detective Sarah Rannon, who had joined the force 2 years earlier and was gaining a reputation for her sharp instincts. They approached the scene where Jina Aurelio Anders' body lay near a park bench. The area was quiet, with only the sound of leaves rustling in the breeze. The park, usually filled with joggers and families, felt eerie that morning. The detectives took in the scene. Gina's body was positioned as if she had simply lain down and never gotten up. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, and nothing appeared out of place at first glance. It was puzzling. Detective Merritt and Rannon examined Gina's belongings. Her phone was in her pocket, her headphones were still in her gears, and a partially consumed smoothie cup was nearby. The detectives knew they needed to find out if this was a tragic accident or something more sinister. The smoothie cup caught Detective Rannon's attention. It was from Jamba Juice, a place Gina frequented. She carefully collected it as evidence, suspecting it might hold clues. Meanwhile, forensic experts arrived and began their detailed work, using tools like UV lights and special chemicals to search for any hidden evidence. As the investigation progressed, the detectives learned that Gina had been poisoned. The autopsy revealed she had ingested a lethal dose of digitalis, a toxin from the foxglove plant, which had been mixed into her smoothie. This revelation shifted the case from a mysterious death to a clear case of murder. The police worked methodically, interviewing park visitors and checking security cameras in the area. They hoped to find someone who had seen Gina that morning or noticed anything unusual. Detective Merritt and Rannon kept a close eye on the investigation, ensuring no detail was overlooked. They visited the Jamba Juice where Gina had bought her smoothie, talking to employees and reviewing surveillance footage from the store. The crime scene investigation was thorough. The detectives pieced together Gina's final hours, from purchasing her smoothie to her last moments in the park. The careful collection of evidence and witness testimonies would become crucial in solving the case and bringing Gina's killer to justice. By the end of the day, the park had returned to its usual calm, but the echoes of the morning's tragedy lingered. The community was left in shock, grappling with the loss of a beloved nurse and mother. The police, now armed with vital clues, were determined to find the person responsible for Gina's death. David Aurelio, aged 41, was Gina's husband and a state senator from Harrisonburg, Virginia. Known for his charm and polished public image, David had a darker side that few people saw. Financial troubles and the stress of his demanding job had put a significant strain on his marriage to Gina. The police brought David in for questioning on September 13, 2014. The interrogation room was stark, with a simple table and chairs, a far cry from the luxurious settings David was used to. Detective Marcus Merritt and Detective Sarah Rannon conducted the interview. David sat across from them, appearing calm and collected, but there was a tension in the air.
Mr. Aurelio, can you tell us where you were on the morning of September 12th?
I was at my office, preparing for a meeting. I got there early, around 7:30 a.m.
The detectives knew that his office was in downtown Richmond, a considerable distance from Bird Park. They needed to verify his alibi.
Did anyone see you there? Can anyone confirm your whereabouts?
Yes, my assistant, Ruby. She can confirm I was there.
As the interrogation continued, the detectives noticed that David maintained a controlled demeanor. But there were moments when his frustration peeked through. When asked about his relationship with Gina, David's facade briefly cracked.
Our marriage was challenging lately, but I love Gina. I would never hurt her.
However, the detectives had discovered that David was under immense financial pressure. He had made bad investments and was heavily in debt. These financial troubles had driven a wedge between him and Gina. The detectives also found out about a large life insurance policy David had taken out on Gina, raising further suspicions.
Mr. Aurelio, did you know about the life insurance policy on your wife?
Yes, but that's not uncommon. It's for our children's future, in case anything happened to her.
The detectives weren't convinced. They pressed on, asking about his recent financial activities and any conflicts with Gina. David's answers were increasingly terse, and his calm demeanor began to crack under the pressure. David's controlled responses and the significant life insurance policy made him a prime suspect. The detectives left the interrogation room with more questions than answers, but were determined to uncover the truth. David's financial desperation and strained marriage painted a grim picture. As the investigation continued, the police searched David's financial records and phone logs, looking for any clues that could connect him to Jina's murder. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together, but the detectives knew they needed more evidence to make a solid case. The spotlight was firmly on David Aurelio, and the community watched closely as the investigation into Jina's tragic death unfolded. Karen Ander, age 58, was Jina's mother and a retired school teacher. She had a very close relationship with her daughter and often helped care for Jina's children, Delta and Spirit. Despite her nurturing personality, Karen had a complicated and strained relationship with Jina's husband, David. She often criticized him for how he treated Jina. On September 14, 2014, the police brought Karen in for questioning. Detective Marcus Merritt and Detective Sarah Rainin conducted the interview in a quiet room at the police station. Karen appeared anxious and tired, her eyes red from crying.
Mrs. Andor, can you tell us about your relationship with David?
David and I have never gotten along. He's always been so controlling and demanding. Jina deserved better.
The detectives knew they needed to dig deeper. They had discovered a secret that Karen had kept hidden for years.
Mrs. Andor, we have reason to believe that you and David were involved in an affair.
Yes, it's true. It started 5 years ago. It was a terrible mistake. I knew it was wrong, but he threatened to ruin my relationship with Jina if I didn't comply.
The detectives exchanged glances. This revelation added a new layer of complexity to the case. Karen's involvement with David could be seen as a motive, but her admission also pointed towards David's manipulative behavior.
Why didn't you come forward earlier?
I was ashamed. I didn't want to lose my daughter. I didn't know what to do.
Karen's emotional state was clear. She was torn between her guilt and her love for Jina. The detectives pressed on, asking about the morning of Jina's death. "Where were you on September 12th?" Detective Merritt asked.
I was at home. I didn't see Jina that morning. I heard about her death from the news. It was like my worst nightmare came true.
The detectives noted her responses and the genuine anguish in her voice. Karen's confession about the affair with David complicated the investigation, but they still needed more evidence to determine her exact role. After the interrogation, the police continued to gather information. They looked into Karen's background, her phone records, and any possible connections to the poison used to kill Jina. The community was shocked by the revelation of the affair, adding to the already tense atmosphere surrounding the case. As the investigation moved forward, Karen's involvement remained a key piece of the puzzle. The detectives knew they had to untangle the web of relationships and secrets to find out who was truly responsible for Jina's death. On September 15, 2014, the weather in Richmond, Virginia, was cloudy with a chance of rain. Around 3:00 p.m., while searching Jina's home for more clues, the police found something crucial. Detective Sarah Rainin was going through Jina's desk when she discovered a hidden compartment. Inside, there was a small digital recorder. The recorder contains several conversations between Jina and David. These recordings revealed Jina confronting David about his secret gambling addiction and the financial troubles he had been hiding. One recording was particularly alarming. Jina mentioned wanting to leave David and take their children with her, while David responded with cold, threatening remarks. This evidence was a significant breakthrough, providing a clear motive for David and showing how desperate and dangerous he had become. Jina had been planning to leave him, and David's fear of losing his family and his reputation might have driven him to murder. With this new evidence, the detectives returned to questioning David. They confronted him with the recordings, hoping to crack his calm facade. Faced with the recordings, David became visibly distressed, his usual composure breaking down. He admitted to the gambling addiction and the threat, but he said that he had not intended for Jina to die. He had only wanted to scare her into staying with him. David's confession confirmed the police's suspicions and provided them another piece of the puzzle. The detectives documented David's confession and the new evidence carefully, knowing it would be crucial for the trial. The community, still reeling from the shock, hoped for justice for Jina. As the investigation continued, the focus shifted to preparing for the upcoming trial, where David would face the consequences of his actions. The police's diligent search for evidence and the discovery of the recorder played a critical role in solving Jina's murder. David's fear of losing everything had pushed him to a desperate and ultimately fatal act. The meticulous work of the detectives ensured that justice would be served, bringing some closure to Jina's grieving family and community. Lisa Breton, age 29, was a nurse who worked with Jina at the hospital. Known for her ambition and drive, Lisa often competed with Jina for promotions and recognition. Despite their professional rivalry, they maintained a facade of friendship. Lisa was considered a possible suspect because of her competitive nature and proximity to Jina. On September 16, 2014, the police brought Lisa in for questioning. The interrogation room was plain and serious. Detective Marcus Merritt and Detective Sarah Ranan conducted the interview. Lisa appeared composed, but there was a tension in her eyes. The detectives began by asking Lisa about her relationship with Jina. Lisa described their relationship as friendly, but acknowledged the professional rivalry. She admitted that they both aimed for the same promotions and recognition at the hospital. However, she insisted that their competition was friendly and not personal. The detectives then shifted their focus to Lisa's whereabouts on the morning of Jina's death. Lisa explained that she was at the hospital, starting her shift at 7:00 a.m. The detectives checked this alibi with the hospital records and confirmed that Lisa had indeed clocked in at that time. Colleagues also confirmed seeing her at work. Despite her alibi, the detectives delved deeper into Lisa's background. They found that Lisa had no criminal record and was known for her dedication to her job. However, they also discovered that Lisa had recently faced disappointment. She had been passed over for a promotion that Jina had received. This raised questions about her possible motives. While Lisa's rivalry with Jina was evident, the detectives found no concrete evidence tying her to the murder. The investigation continued, but Lisa remained cooperative and calm throughout the process. Her alibi and lack of motive made it difficult for the police to consider her a primary suspect. As the investigation progressed, the focus shifted back to the more likely suspects. Lisa's involvement seemed less probable given her strong alibi and lack of motive. The detectives continued to piece together the evidence, determined to find justice for Jina. On September 20, 2014, Detective Marcus Merritt and Detective Sarah Ranan finally got the break they needed. They had discovered the real reason why David Aurelio had been blackmailing Jina's mother, Karen Ander. This shocking twist came to light after a careful review of the hidden camera footage and phone records. David had discovered that he was Karen's son from a secret teenage pregnancy, given up for adoption years ago. He used this information to force Karen into an affair and to keep her silent about his abusive behavior towards Jina. David was under immense financial pressure due to bad investments, failing business ventures, and a severe gambling addiction. His mounting debts had led him to take out a large life insurance policy on Jina. When Jina found out about his gambling and was planning to leave him with the kids, David saw no way out other than to get rid of her. On the morning of Jina's death, David got her usual morning smoothie from Jamba Juice, but this time he added a lethal dose of digitalis. This poison derived from the foxglove plant is not commonly used, making it hard to detect. Jina drank the smoothie before her routine jog, completely unaware of what her husband had done. Within minutes, she collapsed and died on the sidewalk, where her neighbor later found her. The weather on September 21, 2014 was stormy, with heavy rain and thunder. That evening, the police decided to arrest David. They arrived at his office at the state capitol, where he was finishing up a late meeting. The arrest was swift and professional. David, dressed in his usual sharp suit, was caught off guard but tried to maintain his composure. As the officers read him his rights, his face remained stony, but his hands shook slightly. News of David's arrest quickly spread through the media. The Richmond Times-Dispatch reported on the shocking arrest of the state senator, and TV stations like WTVR and WRIC aired footage of David being led away in handcuffs. The community was stunned. Many had admired David for his public service, unaware of the dark secrets he kept. Jina's family, especially her mother Karen, were devastated but relieved. Friends and neighbors gathered to support Jina's children, Delta in spirit, offering help and comfort during this difficult time. David's arrest marked the beginning of the end of a tragic story filled with deceit, betrayal, and loss. The community of Richmond was left to pick up the pieces and support Jina's family as they faced the long road ahead. The trial of David Aurelio started in January 2015 at the Richmond Circuit Court. The courtroom was filled with reporters, friends, and family members of both David and Jina. The Richmond Times-Dispatch and local TV stations covered the trial closely, keeping the community updated on every detail. The prosecution was led by Richard Huckley, a 50-year-old attorney known for his dedication to justice. Huckley was determined to prove that David had planned and executed the murder of his wife, Jina. He presented the recordings found on the hidden camera, which showed David's violent temper and frets towards Jina. Huckley also highlighted the life insurance policy and David's gambling debts as motives. On the other side, the defense attorney, Julia Indio, was 45 years old and known for her calm and sharp legal skills. She argued that the evidence was circumstantial and that David was being framed. Indio pointed out that there were no witnesses to David actually poisoning Jina and tried to cast doubt on the reliability of the evidence. Gina's family sat through the trial with heavy hearts. Her mother, Karen Andert, was often seen wiping away tears, while Gina's children, Delta and Spirit, were too young to understand the full extent of what was happening, but were deeply affected by the loss of their mother. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury found David Aurelio guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom was silent as the verdict was read. David showed no emotion, but his hands trembled slightly. The judge sentenced him to 20 years in prison with the possibility of parole in 5 years. The community of Richmond had mixed reactions. Some felt the sentence was just beyond the cruelty of the crime, while others were shocked that a state senator could commit such an act. Gina's friends and family felt a sense of justice, but also a deep sadness that nothing could bring Jina back. Reporters from the Richmond Times-Dispatch and local news stations interviewed people outside the courthouse. Many expressed relief that justice was served, but also concern for Gina's children, who would grow up without their parents. The trial's outcome affected everyone involved. Karen Anders struggled with the dual betrayal of losing her daughter and discovering her son's true nature. Gina's colleagues at the hospital remembered her dedication and kindness, setting up a scholarship in her name to help future nurses. David's trial and conviction brought some closure to the community, but the impact of his actions would be felt for years to come. After the trial, life in Richmond, Virginia, slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy. For Jina Aurelio Anders' family and friends, however, the scars left by her tragic death would take much longer to heal. David Aurelio's conviction brought a sense of closure to Gina's loved ones. They found solace in knowing that justice had been served for Jina, even as they grappled with the pain of her absence. The community rallied around them, offering support and condolences during their time of grief. For Delta and Spirit, Gina's children, life would never be the same. They were left without a mother, their innocence shattered by the cruel actions of their father. But with the love and support of their extended family and community, they began the long journey of healing and rebuilding their lives. As for Karen Ander, Gina's mother, the trial marked the end of a nightmare. David's blackmail had been a heavy burden to bear, but with David behind bars, she could finally breathe a sigh of relief. She found solace in knowing that she had helped bring her daughter's killer to justice. For Detective Marcus Merritt and Detective Sarah Rannon, the trial was a bittersweet victory. They had worked tirelessly to unravel the truth behind Gina's murder, and seeing David Aurelio behind bars was a testament to their dedication and perseverance. But they knew that their work was far from over. There were other cases to solve, other families seeking closure, and they were determined to continue fighting for justice. Though Jina Aurelio Ander was gone, her spirit lived on in the hearts of those who loved her. And as the community stood together, united in grief and remembrance, they vowed never to forget the woman who had touched so many lives. Lawrence Peters, a 50-year-old man, was the proud owner of a thriving swimming pool supply company in the city of San Mateo in the Bay Area of Northern California. Known throughout the community for his business acumen, Lawrence was a devoted husband of 20 years to his wife Denise and a loving father to his Stanford student daughter, Jayla. He also adored his role as dog daddy to his beloved Shih Tzu, Richard Davies. Lawrence's aspirations revolved around expanding his business and providing a comfortable life for his family. September 2010 was a time of both innovation and tragedy for the residents of San Mateo. While Lawrence was planning to expand his business, the city was shaken by the San Bruno pipeline explosion, a disaster that gripped headlines and hearts alike. It was a stark reminder of life's unpredictability, echoing the unforeseen calamity that would soon befall Lawrence himself. Lawrence's business, Aquapools, had gained a reputation for its top-notch products and exceptional customer service. His success had not come easy, though. Years of hard work and dedication had transformed Aquapools into a trusted brand in the swimming pool industry. Lawrence's unwavering commitment to quality and his passion for innovation had earned him the respect of both his peers and his clients. As the days grew shorter and the air turned crisp, his latest pool cleaning robot, the AquaSweep 3000, was set to be the star attraction at the local pool and spa expo. Lawrence believed that this revolutionary device would revolutionize the pool maintenance industry, making the tedious task of cleaning pools a thing of the past. Tragically, Lawrence's ambitions were cut short. What was initially thought to be a severe illness revealed itself as something far more sinister: murder. The investigation into his death would uncover a web of deceit that ran deeper than anyone could have imagined, turning the Peters' idyllic life into a true crime case. On September 15, 2010, a serene day in San Mateo, California, the local community was struck by a harrowing event. Lawrence Peters, a 50-year-old entrepreneur known for his thriving swimming pool supply business, Aqua Pools, faced an untimely demise. The businessman, admired for his dedication to family and commerce, succumbed to what was initially believed to be a severe illness in his hospital room, leaving behind a legacy of success and a bewildered community. The illness that claimed Lawrence's life had taken hold 3 weeks prior, its symptoms escalating rapidly, confounding medical professionals. It was during these critical moments that his wife, Denise Peters, was by his side, witnessing his struggle. In his final moments, Lawrence uttered a puzzling phrase: "Was it my wife or my girlfriend?" Words that would later echo through the corridors of the investigation. Denise, who had shared 2 decades of marriage with Lawrence, was engulfed by a wave of emotions. Her reaction was a complex tapestry of shock, sorrow, and a hint of suspicion, reflecting the dual nature of her husband's last words. Despite the turmoil within, she promptly notified the hospital staff, clinging to a sliver of hope for Lawrence's survival. The news of Lawrence's passing reverberated beyond the confines of the hospital. In a town still reeling from the recent San Bruno pipeline explosion, this personal tragedy added to the collective sense of loss. The incident, which had dominated headlines just days earlier, now shared space with the mysterious circumstances surrounding Lawrence's death. As the investigation unfolded, it became apparent that Lawrence's demise was not a mere twist of fate, but the result of foul play. The community, which had once seen Lawrence as a pillar of entrepreneurial spirit, now grappled with the grim reality that his life had been deliberately cut short. In the backdrop of this personal tragedy, the world continued to turn, a stark contrast to the somber mood that had settled over San Mateo. The case of Lawrence Peters, a man who had aspired to elevate his business to the heights of such household names, had instead become a subject of true crime lore, leaving behind a family, a pet, and a tale of intrigue that would captivate and confound all who heard it. The investigation into the death of Lawrence Peters, a prominent businessman, began in earnest on September 15, 2010. Detectives O'Reilly and Ying arrived at the San Mateo Hospital, where Lawrence had breathed his last. The room, a sterile environment typical of medical facilities, showed no immediate signs of criminal activity. Yet the detectives were not convinced this was a natural death. As they combed through the room, the detectives took note of every detail: the IV stand, the beeping monitors now silent, and the personal effects that seemed untouched. They collected samples, knowing that the smallest clue could be the key to solving the case. The initial medical reports were vague, but toxicology would later confirm their suspicions. Lawrence had been poisoned. The question of who could commit such a heinous act loomed large. Lawrence was a well-respected figure, his company Aqua Dynamics a known name in the South Bay area. He was a family man with a wife and a daughter, and even his pet Shih Tzu, Richard Davies, who was a beloved fixture in his life. Detectives O'Reilly and Ying faced a daunting task. They needed to piece together Lawrence's final weeks, scrutinize his personal and professional relationships, and construct a timeline that could lead them to the perpetrator. The community watched, waited, and wondered who among them could be responsible for such a betrayal. As the investigation unfolded, the detectives would find themselves delving into a complex web of deceit, where business rivalries and personal vendettas blurred the lines between friend and foe. The case of Lawrence Peters was not just a local crime story. It was a narrative that would capture the attention of true crime enthusiasts. In Lawrence Peters' murder, all eyes turned to his wife, Denise Peters, as the prime suspect. At the age of 52, Denise managed a vegan bookstore in downtown San Mateo, California. She was not just Lawrence's wife, but as a published author of a popular young adult sci-fi novel, Althea and the Federation of Light, Denise was a figure of cultural significance in her own right. The police interrogated Denise with a sense of urgency, trying to uncover any possible motive for the murder. As they delved into her background, they discovered that Denise and Lawrence had been married for 20 years, seemingly living a life of wedded bliss. However, beneath the surface, there were whispers of marital discord. According to the American Center for Family Relationships, 85% of married Americans have cheated on their spouse, and Denise was no different. They discovered that Denise had been having an affair with a local businessman, Jamie Trevelyan. Jamie, an 85-year-old entrepreneur who owned a chain of successful coffee shops in the Bay Area, was known for his charismatic personality and connections within the community. The police believed that this affair could be the key to understanding the motive behind Lawrence's murder. As the investigation unfolded, the detectives uncovered a series of sexually explicit text messages exchanged between Denise and Jamie during the weeks leading up to Lawrence's death. These messages hinted at a strained relationship between Denise and her husband, with discussions about leaving Lawrence and starting a new life together. The detectives also discovered that Denise had taken out a life insurance policy on Lawrence just a few months before his death, raising further suspicions. To gather more evidence, the police interviewed friends, family, and employees of both Denise and Lawrence. They discovered that Lawrence had found out about the affair before his illness and confronted Denise about it. This revelation had caused significant tension in their marriage, leading many to believe that Denise had a motive to eliminate Lawrence. As the investigation continued, the police sought to corroborate Denise's alibi during the time of Lawrence's death. They reviewed surveillance footage from the hospital and interviewed hospital staff who had interacted with Denise during that period. However, there were no solid leads or evidence to conclusively prove or disprove her involvement in the crime. As the detectives delved deeper, they considered every possibility. Was a crime of passion a result of a love triangle hinted at by Lawrence's cryptic last words? Or was it a calculated move to gain control of Lawrence's successful business, Aquadynamics? The answers were not forthcoming. As the investigation into the shocking murder of Lawrence Peters unfolded, another suspect emerged from the shadows. Dr. Francesca Luati, a 39-year-old doctor at the hospital where Lawrence had met his untimely demise, became the focus of intense scrutiny. The revelation that Dr. Luati was Lawrence's secret girlfriend sent shockwaves through the community and added a new layer of complexity to the case. Dr. Luati was a respected physician, known for her dedication and expertise in the field of internal medicine. She had been working at San Mateo Hospital for 5 years, earning the trust and admiration of her colleagues. Friends and coworkers described her as intelligent, hardworking, and compassionate. However, beneath the surface, a web of secrets was about to unravel. The police wasted no time in bringing Dr. Luati in for questioning. The interrogation room was tense as detectives O'Reilly and Yane delved into the doctor's personal life, searching for any possible motive for the murder. Dr. Luati vehemently denied any involvement, her anger palpable as she defended her innocence. During the interrogation, it was revealed that Dr. Luati and Lawrence had been involved in a clandestine sexual affair for over a year. Their relationship had blossomed in the shadows, hidden from prying eyes. The detectives probed deeper, trying to understand the dynamics of their secret romance. They discovered that the affair had been fraught with tension and secrecy, as Lawrence struggled to balance his commitment to his wife and family with his desire for a passionate connection with Dr. Luati. As the investigation continued, the detectives uncovered a series of text messages exchanged between Lawrence and Dr. Luati in the weeks leading up to his death. These messages painted a picture of a troubled relationship filled with jealousy, suspicion, and betrayal. Lawrence had confided in a close friend about his fears that Dr. Luati was becoming increasingly possessive and volatile. The detectives also discovered that Dr. Luati had recently purchased a bottle of a powerful sedative, commonly used in hospitals for anesthesia. This raised suspicions about her possible involvement in Lawrence's death. However, Dr. Luati maintained that the sedative was intended for professional use and vehemently denied any sinister intentions. As the investigation reached its critical juncture, the police were left with more questions than answers. Was Dr. Luati a scorned lover seeking revenge? Or was she an innocent bystander caught in a web of deceit? The truth remained elusive, hidden behind a veil of secrecy and betrayal. The investigation into the mysterious murder of Lawrence Peters took a dramatic turn on September 20, 2010, when a crucial piece of evidence was discovered. The weather that day was gloomy, mirroring the somber mood of the investigation team as they delved deeper into the case. Detectives Aurelio and Chiang were meticulously combing through the office of Dr. Francesca Luati, a 39-year-old doctor at the hospital where Lawrence had tragically passed away and his secret lover. It was during this search that they stumbled upon a vial of radium hidden among the doctor's belongings. Radium, a highly radioactive substance, was once used in various medical treatments and industrial applications. Its discovery in Dr. Luati's office sent shockwaves through the investigative team, raising serious questions about her possible involvement in Lawrence's death. To fully understand the significance of this finding, it is important to delve into the background of radium and its potential implications in a murder case. Featured in the Oscar-winning film Oppenheimer, radium emits harmful radiation, which can cause severe health issues, including cancer. Its usage in medical treatments has been largely phased out due to its dangerous nature. The discovery of the vial of radium in Dr. Luati's possession raises several intriguing questions. How did she acquire this highly restricted substance? What was her motive for possessing it? And most importantly, could radium have been the deadly poison that claimed Lawrence's life? As the investigation team delves deeper into Dr. Luati's involvement, they are meticulously examining her personal and professional connections. They are leaving no stone unturned in their quest for the truth. Interviews with colleagues, patients, and acquaintances of Dr. Luati are being conducted to shed light on her character and possible motives. The discovery of the vial of radium injected new life into the investigation, providing a potential breakthrough in unraveling the mystery behind Lawrence Peters' murder. Detectives Aurelio and Chiang were determined to follow every lead, meticulously piecing together the puzzle of this perplexing crime. As the investigation intensifies, the truth inches closer to the surface. Will Dr. Luati's connection to the radium vial be the key that unlocks the secrets of Lawrence's untimely demise? In the investigation into the shocking murder of Lawrence Peters, a new suspect emerged. Lyle Deacon, a 35-year-old nurse at the hospital in San Mateo, California, where Lawrence tragically passed away. Unbeknownst to his colleagues, Lyle has a dark past as an ex-felon from Minnesota, where he committed a series of fatal poisonings at a previous hospital. The police were now focusing their attention on Lyle, exploring his personality, dreams, and potential motives in order to uncover the truth behind Lawrence's untimely demise. Lyle Deacon, a tall and wiry man with a brooding demeanor, had been working at the hospital for just over a year. Colleagues described him as introverted and mysterious, often keeping to himself during his shifts. He was known for his meticulous attention to detail when it came to patient care, but little did anyone suspect the darkness that lurked beneath his calm exterior. During the police interrogation, Lyle vehemently denied any involvement in Lawrence's murder. He claimed that his troubled past was behind him and that he had turned his life around. However, the investigators were not convinced and delved deeper into his background. The detectives discovered that Lyle had been released from prison just a few months before he started working at the San Mateo hospital. His criminal record revealed a history of poisoning patients at a hospital in St. Paul, Minnesota, which resulted in multiple deaths. The media had dubbed him the Midwest Menace during the trial that followed. As the investigation progressed, the police uncovered a disturbing pattern. It was revealed that Lyle had a fascination with toxic substances and had been secretly researching various poisons online. They also discovered a hidden stash of chemicals in his apartment, including a vial of cyanide, a deadly poison. The detectives meticulously combed through Lyle's work history, interviewing former colleagues and patients from the Minnesota hospital. They found chilling similarities between the poisonings that occurred there and Lawrence's death. The victims had all exhibited similar symptoms, and the timeline of events matched up. The evidence against Lyle Deacon was mounting, but the investigators knew they needed more to prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. They continued to gather witness statements, comb through financial records, and analyze phone records for any connections to Lawrence or the other suspects. As the investigation into Lawrence Peters' murder intensified, the police remained determined to uncover the truth and bring the perpetrator to justice. With Lyle Deacon now firmly in their sights, the detectives were leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of justice for Lawrence and his grieving family. After an intense investigation, the police finally cracked the case of Lawrence Peters' murder. The mastermind behind this heinous crime had been identified as none other than Dr. Francesca Luati, a 39-year-old doctor at the hospital where Lawrence tragically passed away. The motive behind this shocking act of violence stems from a web of deceit and betrayal. It was revealed that Dr. Luati was not only Lawrence's secret girlfriend, but also harbored deep feelings of anger and resentment towards him as a result of her severe case of codependency syndrome. In a fit of rage and vengeance, she decided to poison him, putting an end to his life and shattering the dreams of his family. The evidence against Dr. Luati was compelling. On September 20, 2010, the police made a breakthrough discovery in her office. Hidden away, they found a vial of radium, a highly toxic substance that can cause severe harm to the human body. This revelation sent shockwaves through the investigation team, providing a crucial link between Dr. Luati and the murder of Lawrence Peters. The arrest of Dr. Luati took place on a stormy evening, reminiscent of the dark cloud that had loomed over Lawrence's family since his untimely demise. The police, acting swiftly and decisively, apprehended the doctor, who was taken aback by her own arrest. The moment was captured by the local news vans of KGO and KNTV, with cameras flashing and reporters clamoring for the latest details on this sensational case. As the news of Dr. Luati's arrest spread, Lawrence's family experienced a mix of relief and grief. Relief that the person responsible for their loved one's murder had been brought to justice, but also grief for the loss they had suffered. Their lives will never be the same, but at least they found solace in knowing the truth about what happened to Lawrence. This shocking crime and its subsequent investigation served as a reminder that even in seemingly ordinary lives, dark secrets can lurk, leading to tragic consequences. The story of Lawrence Peters' murder will forever be etched in the annals of true crime, a cautionary tale of betrayal and the pursuit of justice. The trial that followed the shocking murder of Lawrence Peters in September 2010 was a gripping courtroom drama that captivated many true crime geeks in the Bay Area. Dr. Francesca Luati, the mastermind behind Lawrence's untimely demise, faced the consequences of her heinous act as the prosecution presented a compelling case against her. Prosecutor Bertram Holbert-Toole, a seasoned legal expert known for his meticulous approach, skillfully outlined the motive behind the murder. He painted a picture of a woman consumed by anger and betrayal, seeking revenge against a man she once loved. With the help of expert witnesses and compelling evidence, Holbert-Toole established a strong case against Dr. Luati. Defense attorney Lisa Betchworth, known for her tenacity and ability to create doubt, fought tooth and nail to establish reasonable doubt. Betchworth questioned the credibility of the evidence, pointing out potential flaws in the investigation. She argued that the vial of radium found in Dr. Luati's office could have been planted by someone else with malicious intent. Despite her efforts, the weight of the evidence against Dr. Luati proved too substantial to overcome. Throughout the trial, Lawrence's grieving family sat in the courtroom, seeking justice for their beloved husband and father. Their emotions ran high as they listened to the testimonies and examined the evidence. The pain of their loss was palpable as they clung to the hope that justice would be served. The trial lasted for weeks, with the media closely following. News outlets such as the San Mateo Tribune and the local TV station, Channel 7 News, provided daily updates on the proceedings. The courtroom was packed with reporters, eager to capture every moment of the trial for the public. After careful consideration of the evidence presented by both sides, the jury deliberated for several days. On a tense afternoon, the verdict was delivered. Dr. Francesca Luati was found guilty of the murder of Lawrence Peters. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief and grief as Lawrence's family finally received the justice they had longed for. The sentencing that followed left a lasting impact on both the murderer and the victims' families. Judge Lee Thornburg, known for her no-nonsense approach to justice, handed down a sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The courtroom fell silent as the weight of the sentence sank in, leaving Dr. Luati with no chance of redemption. The trial of Dr. Francesca Luati and the subsequent verdict and sentencing marked the end of a tragic chapter in the lives of Lawrence Peters' family. The nation watched as justice was served, and debates about the adequacy of the punishment and the concept of justice raged on. After the dramatic conclusion of the trial, the lives of all those involved took a significant turn. Denise Peters, Lawrence's wife, was faced with the harsh reality of her husband's infidelity and the pain of losing him. She sought solace in the support of her close-knit community in San Mateo, California, who rallied around her during this difficult time. Dr. Francesca Luati, the mastermind behind Lawrence's murder, faced the consequences of her actions. She was sentenced to serve time in the California State Women's Prison, where she would spend her days reflecting on the choices that led her down a dark path. Lawrence's family and friends slowly began to heal, finding solace in the cherished memories they had of him. They organized a memorial service to celebrate his life and honor his legacy. The service took place at the Stanford Memorial Church, a place Lawrence held dear to his heart. Friends and family shared heartfelt stories and anecdotes, reminiscing about his kindness, generosity, and love for his family. In the months following the trial, Denise made the difficult decision to sell Lawrence's swimming pool supply company. She wanted to start anew and create a different future for herself and her daughter. In the years that followed, Lawrence's family and friends slowly rebuilt their lives. They found solace in the memories they shared and the knowledge that justice had been served. While the pain of losing Lawrence would never fully fade, they were determined to honor his memory by living their lives to the fullest and cherishing the time they had together. And so concludes the tragic tale of Lawrence Peters, a man whose dying words sparked a murder investigation that unraveled a web of secrets and betrayal. Join us next time as we delve into another captivating true crime case. Stay tuned for more episodes of True Crime Case Files, where we uncover the darkest mysteries. Isabella Sanderson, a vibrant and ambitious 30-year-old woman, owned a small clothing boutique in the city of Pittsburgh, California back in June of 2004. Her boutique, known simply as Bella's Boutique, was a hidden gem in the local fashion scene. With an impeccable taste for fashion and a fierce sense of independence, Bella became a fascinating figure in the community. As the summer of 2004 unfolded, Bella's life was filled with dreams and aspirations. She constantly envisioned a future brimming with success and adventure. Despite being 4 months pregnant, she remained determined to make her boutique thrive. Friends and family admired her unapologetic confidence, but little did they know that it would eventually lead to her untimely demise. To complicate matters further, Bella's own mother-in-law, Sophia, harbored a deep resentment towards her. Sophia, a woman known for her controlling nature, couldn't stand Bella's independent spirit. She saw her as a threat to the family's legacy and was determined to eliminate her from their lives. On that fateful night in June, Bella's life took a tragic turn. The details surrounding her murder were as chilling as they are perplexing. The investigation into her death would uncover a series of shocking revelations, shedding light on the dark secrets that lay beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic suburban community. In the quiet neighborhood of Pittsburgh, California, tragedy struck on a sunny day in June. Isabella Sanderson, a vivacious 30-year-old boutique owner, met a gruesome end that would send shockwaves through the community. Bella was known for her impeccable taste and fierce independence. Her small clothing boutique was a local favorite, attracting fashion enthusiasts from all walks of life. She had a reputation for stirring up drama, with her unapologetic confidence and ambitious dreams of success and adventure. At the time of her death, Bella was 4 months pregnant, adding an even more heartbreaking layer to the already devastating story. On that fateful day, Bella's husband, Robert Sanderson Jr., made a horrifying discovery. The warmth of the sun was in stark contrast to the chilling scene that awaited him. As he approached his middle-class residence, fear and confusion washed over him. He stumbled upon the lifeless body of his beloved wife, her once vibrant spirit extinguished. The shock of the discovery was palpable. Robert, overwhelmed by grief, was unsure of how to process the gruesome scene before him. The police were immediately called to the scene, and the investigation into Bella's death began. In June of 2004, media outlets were quick to pick up on the tragedy. Local newspapers, such as the Pittsburgh Gazette, dedicated coverage to the case. Television news stations, like KGO Channel 7 News, aired special reports detailing the events surrounding Bella's murder. The community was captivated by the unfolding story, desperate for answers and justice. As investigators combed through the evidence, they discovered a complex web of relationships that would become the focal point of their investigation. The love triangle between Bella, her husband Robert, and his secret lover quickly became a central piece of the puzzle. The tension between these individuals, combined with the involvement of Bella's own mother-in-law, added an even darker twist to the already tragic tale. With each passing day, the details of Bella's untimely demise became more and more publicized. The community mourned the loss of a vibrant young woman, while simultaneously grappling with the shocking and disturbing nature of the crime. The investigation continued, fueled by the determination to bring justice to Bella and her unborn child. The swift arrival of the police at the scene of Bella Sanderson's tragic demise in June 2004 sent shockwaves through the quiet, middle-class neighborhood of Pittsburgh, California. Detective Johnson and Officer Ramirez, the dedicated investigators assigned to the case, wasted no time in assessing the chilling crime scene. As they approached the serene surroundings where Bella's lifeless body lay, a sense of urgency filled the air. The investigators were met with a gruesome sight. Traces of blood stained the once peaceful neighborhood, serving as a stark reminder of the violence that had unfolded. The method of murder, 2 gunshot wounds to the chest, added an eerie layer of mystery to the already perplexing case. With a meticulous attention to detail, the police meticulously combed the area for any potential clues. Utilizing advanced forensic techniques, they gathered evidence that would prove crucial in piecing together the puzzle of Bella's untimely demise. Every inch of the crime scene was scrutinized, from the surrounding houses and streets to the smallest fragments of evidence. Local residents were interviewed, their statements providing valuable insights into the events leading up to Bella's tragic end. The investigators delved into Bella's personal life, exploring her relationships and potential motives for her murder. Rumors of a love triangle involving Bella's husband and her own mother-in-law began to circulate, adding a layer of complexity to the case. As the investigation progressed, the media frenzy surrounding the case intensified. News outlets across picked up the story, captivated by the twists and turns of this real-life tragedy. The small clothing boutique owned by Bella became a focal point, with reporters flocking to the scene to capture the essence of the vibrant woman whose life had been cut short. In their pursuit of justice, Detective Johnson and Officer Ramirez left no stone unturned. They consulted experts in ballistics, forensics, and psychology, hoping to gain further insights into the mind of the killer. The search for answers became a race against time, as the public demanded answers and Bella's loved ones sought closure. The initial focus of the investigation turned towards Robert Sanderson Jr., the husband of the late Bella Sanderson. Robert, a charming and influential figure in the community, was the owner of a local bike shop that had gained popularity among cycling enthusiasts in Contra Costa County. As the police delved deeper into the case, they sought to unravel the enigma surrounding Robert's potential involvement in the murder of his wife. Detective Johnson and Officer Ramirez, the dedicated investigators assigned to the case, meticulously interrogated Robert. The room was tense, with the air heavy with anticipation as they probed for any signs of deceit or motive. Robert's demeanor fluctuated throughout the questioning, displaying a range of emotions that left the investigators both intrigued and suspicious. During the intense interrogation, Robert's responses were a mix of anger and calmness, further adding to the complexity of the case. The investigators were aware of his reputation for manipulation, and they were determined to uncover any hidden truths that lay beneath his charismatic facade. They delved into his personal life, exploring his relationship with Bella and any potential motives that could have driven him to commit such a heinous act. As the investigation progressed, the police discovered a series of text messages exchanged between Robert and a mysterious individual known only as MC. The messages hinted at a clandestine affair, raising questions about the nature of Robert's relationship with Marco Castrati, a regular at the bike shop. Marco, a prominent figure in the community and the owner of a renowned Italian restaurant, had been a big investor in Robert Jr.'s bike shop. With each passing day, the investigators grew more determined to crack the case wide open, bringing justice to the memory of Bella Sanderson. The small community of Pittsburgh was left reeling from the shocking events that had unfolded within its peaceful confines. As the investigation continued, the police painstakingly gathered evidence, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of the truth. Sophia Sanderson, age 65, the mother of Robert Jr., became the focus of the investigation as the second suspect in the murder of Bella Sanderson. A woman of refined taste and extravagant lifestyle, Sophia was no stranger to the glitz and glamour of the luxurious life. However, beneath her polished exterior lay a web of secrets and hidden motives. As the police delved into Sophia's connections to the crime, they discovered a tangled web of financial straying. Despite her outward appearance of wealth and luxury and her pension as a retired nurse, Sophia was burdened by a mountain of credit card debt. Her extravagant spending habits had caught up with her, and she found herself in a desperate situation. It was during this time of financial turmoil that Bella's murder occurred. The police began to question whether Sophia's mounting debt had driven her to commit such a heinous act. They meticulously combed through her financial records, searching for any evidence that could link her to the crime. As they dug deeper, the investigators uncovered a series of suspicious transactions in the weeks leading up to the murder. Large sums of money had been withdrawn from Sophia's bank account, with no clear explanation as to where the funds had gone. The police traced these transactions to a secret offshore account, raising even more questions about Sophia's involvement in Bella's death. The investigation took a dramatic turn when the police discovered a hidden compartment in Sophia's closet. Inside, they found a collection of newspaper clippings detailing the scandalous affairs of wealthy individuals in the area. These clippings, meticulously organized and annotated, hinted at a secret side to Sophia's already dark life. The police theorized that Sophia had become obsessed with the lives of the rich and famous, using their scandals and misfortunes as inspiration for her own twisted game. They believed that Bella's murder was not only a means to protect her family's reputation, but also a way for Sophia to live out her own twisted fantasies. As the investigation continued, the police dug deeper into Sophia's past, uncovering a trail of deceit and manipulation. They discovered that she had a history of using her charm and cunning to manipulate those around her, bending them to her will. This revelation only fueled their suspicions of her involvement in Bella's murder. In the coming weeks, the police would delve further into Sophia's connections and unravel the truth behind Bella's tragic death, riding hard on the shocking twists and turns of the investigation. As the investigation into the tragic murder of Isabella Bella Sanderson intensified, the authorities meticulously combed through the evidence, determined to uncover the truth behind this heinous crime. Every detail, no matter how seemingly insignificant, was scrutinized in their pursuit of justice. One crucial piece of evidence that emerged was the discovery of 2 tickets to a matinee showing of the renowned musical Cats. These tickets, bearing the names of Bella's husband, Robert Sanderson Jr., and a man known as Diego, were found at the crime scene. The investigators immediately recognized the significance of this find, as it provided a potential lead in their quest to unravel the mystery surrounding Bella's untimely demise. The date on the tickets indicated that the fateful outing was planned for June of 2004. As the investigators delved deeper into the connection between Robert Jr. and Diego, they discovered that Diego was the older brother of Bella. This revelation added a new layer of complexity to the case, raising questions about the nature of their relationship and the potential motives behind Bella's murder. Furthermore, The investigators meticulously examined the theater where the Cats' performance was scheduled to take place. The historic Fox Theater in downtown Oakland, known for its stunning architecture and grandeur, had been the chosen venue for this particular matinee. The theater's management cooperated fully with the authorities, providing access to surveillance footage and assisting in the identification of potential witnesses. As the authorities worked tirelessly to piece together the puzzle surrounding Bella's murder, they remained steadfast in their commitment to uncover the truth. The discovery of the Cats' tickets had opened up a new avenue of investigation, shedding light on the intricate web of relationships and potential motives that surrounded this chilling crime. Diego Bosque, the older brother of Bella Sanderson, emerged as another suspect in the investigation. Diego, known for his fiery temper and unwavering loyalty, held deep suspicions about Bella's marriage to Robert Jr. and harbored a strong disdain for Sophia. However, the police uncovered shocking evidence that would send shockwaves through the community. During the course of their investigation, the police discovered secret, explicit text messages exchanged between Diego and Robert Sanderson Jr., Bella's husband. These messages revealed a clandestine sexual relationship between the two men, a relationship that had been kept hidden from everyone, including Bella. The messages were very graphic in nature and described late-night rendezvous in various parks around Contra Costa County. The revelation of this secret relationship sent shockwaves through the community, as it challenged the perception of loyalty and betrayal. Friends and family members were left dumbfounded, struggling to reconcile the image they had of Diego and Robert Jr. with the shocking reality that had been uncovered. The local media quickly picked up on the story, with headlines screaming about the scandalous affair that had emerged in the midst of Bella's murder investigation. The police, now faced with the task of unraveling the complex web of relationships surrounding Bella's death, intensified their interrogation of Diego. The third-grade vocabulary level was employed, ensuring that the questions were easily understood by all parties involved. Diego, torn between protecting his sister's memory and his own lover, was visibly shaken during the questioning. His anger and desperation were palpable as he attempted to navigate the treacherous waters of the investigation. As the investigation continued, the police delved deeper into the connection between Diego and Robert. They analyzed phone records, cross-referenced text messages, and interviewed acquaintances who might shed light on the nature of their relationship. The evidence was meticulously gathered, ensuring that no stone was left unturned in the pursuit of justice. The community of Pittsburgh, California, was left reeling from the shocking revelations that had come to light. The murder of Bella Sanderson had not only exposed a twisted love triangle, but had also shattered the illusion of a close-knit community. The once peaceful neighborhood now found itself at the center of a media frenzy, with reporters from local news outlets descending upon the area to cover the sensational story. The shocking truth behind Bella Sanderson's murder in June of 2004 was finally revealed, shedding light on a twisted plot that unfolded in the quiet city of Pittsburgh, California. After months of meticulous investigation, the police unraveled an intricate web of deception, leading to the arrest of Sophia Sanderson, the 65-year-old mother-in-law of the victim. Driven by a toxic combination of jealousy and pride, Sophia orchestrated a cunning plan to eliminate both her son's lover and his sister, her daughter-in-law. The motive behind this heinous act was rooted in Sophia's deep resentment towards Bella's intrusion into her family's affairs and her son's illicit sexual relationship with Diego Bosque, Bella's older brother. Sophia's desire to maintain control over her son, Robert Jr., and safeguard her family's reputation played a pivotal role in her decision to carry out this macabre scheme. With Diego stealing away her son for secret sex and Bella's pregnancy, threatening her son's financial support, Sophia saw no other way to protect her carefully constructed facade. The police uncovered a trail of evidence that pointed directly at Sophia's involvement in the murder. The discovery of a meticulously planned alibi, consisting of a fake doctor's appointment and a series of phone calls to create a false timeline, revealed the calculated nature of her actions. Additionally, surveillance footage from a nearby store captured Sophia purchasing a gun, the same weapon used to end Bella's life. As the authorities closed in on Sophia, her carefully constructed facade crumbled before her eyes. The shock and disbelief on her face as she was arrested mirrored the feelings of the community, who had known her as a respected member of society. As the community of Pittsburgh tries to make sense of this tragic event, the memory of Bella Sanderson will forever be etched in their minds. Her vibrant spirit and ambitious dreams will serve as a reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that can lurk within the hearts of those closest to us. The courtroom was abuzz with anticipation as the trial of Sophia Sanderson, accused of orchestrating the murder of her son's lover and wife, reached its climax. District Attorney Tabitha Quasimodo, with her commanding presence and sharp legal mind, led the prosecution's case against Sophia. The defense, represented by attorney Ariel Cruz Roja, fought tirelessly to cast doubt on the evidence presented. The trial unfolded against the backdrop of a nation captivated by true crime stories. In the courtroom, attorney Quasimodo meticulously laid out the evidence against Sophia. She presented phone records showing suspicious conversations between Sophia and an unidentified individual on the day of the murder. The prosecution also introduced the murder weapon, a .45 caliber handgun, which was traced back to Sophia's possession. The ballistics expert testified that the bullets recovered from Bella's body matched those fired from the gun. To further strengthen their case, the prosecution called upon witnesses who had observed Sophia's erratic behavior leading up to the murder. A neighbor testified that they had seen Sophia lurking around Bella's boutique, casting a sinister shadow over the otherwise peaceful neighborhood. The defense, however, argued that these witnesses were unreliable and their testimonies should be dismissed. As the trial progressed, the courtroom was filled with tension and emotion. Bella's grieving family, clad in black, listened intently to every word uttered. The victim's friends, still grappling with the shock of their loss, sought solace in each other's presence. The media, hungry for sensational stories, swarmed the courthouse, capturing every moment for the evening news and front-page headlines. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Sophia Sanderson was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief, sorrow, and closure. The impact of the verdict reverberated through the lives of all involved, forever altering the course of their futures. In the aftermath of the trial, true crime geeks debated the motives and psychology of Sophia, dissecting her actions and attempting to understand what drove her to commit such a heinous crime. The story of Bella Sanderson's murder became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath even the most seemingly idyllic lives. Following the conclusion of the trial, Robert Jr., Diego, and Sophia were left to grapple with the daunting task of moving forward. The events surrounding Bella's murder had forever altered their lives, leaving them to navigate a complex web of emotions and rebuild their shattered worlds. Robert Jr., once the charismatic owner of a bike shop, found himself at a crossroads. The trial had exposed the dark secrets of his past, including his illicit relationship with Diego. The revelation had left him questioning his own sexuality and struggling to come to terms with the consequences of his actions. With his reputation tarnished and his business suffering, Robert Jr. faced an uphill battle to regain the trust of his community. Diego, Bella's older brother, was consumed by guilt and remorse. His secret sexuality relationship with Robert had not only betrayed his sister, but also implicated him in the murder plot. The trial had laid bare his darkest secrets, leaving him isolated and ostracized from his family, who did not accept his sexuality. With no one to turn to, Diego found solace in therapy and support groups, working tirelessly to rebuild his life and find redemption. Sophia, the mastermind behind the murder plot, faced the harsh reality of her actions. The trial had shattered her carefully constructed facade, exposing her as a manipulative and calculating individual. Her once extravagant lifestyle had crumbled under the weight of her debt, leaving her in prison. With no one left to protect her, Sophia retreated into a life of isolation and regret. As the months turned into years, the wounds left by Bella's murder slowly began to heal. The victims' families, torn apart by grief, found solace in support groups and counseling. The community rallied around them, offering a shoulder to lean on and a listening ear. Slowly but surely, life in Pittsburgh returned to a semblance of normalcy. And thus, the twisted love triangle that ensnared Isabella Bella Sanderson came to a close. In the city of Pittsburgh, California, In June of 2004, a story of passion, betrayal, and tragedy unfolded. Bella's life was tragically cut short, leaving behind a community forever changed by the darkness that lurked within their midst. Join us next time on True Crime Case Files as we delve into another chilling tale of human nature's darkest depths. Katia Powell, a 29-year-old woman from Eupora, Mississippi, was known as the psychic and astrologer of her community. She had a deep connection with the spiritual world and was highly regarded by those who sought her guidance. Katia's father, Reverend Vance Vice Powell, a Baptist minister from the neighboring town of Mathiston, had a complicated relationship with his daughter's work. He believed that her abilities were influenced by evil forces despite their close bond. Katia was a proud Aries and an active participant in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, where she embraced the persona of Lysandra Dragonslayer. She immersed herself in her work, with aspirations of expanding her psychic abilities. As January of 2008 rolled in, she was determined to take her skills to new heights. Eupora, a small town in Mississippi, was abuzz with excitement for the new year. The community was still recovering from the aftermath of the devastating tornado that had struck the region the previous year. The local newspaper, the Webster Progress-Times, reported on the progress made in the town's recovery efforts. It highlighted the resilience of the community and the hope that the new year brought. Katia's clients, who came from all walks of life, relied on her guidance to navigate the uncertainties of the future. She had gained a reputation for her accurate predictions and insightful readings. Her name was often mentioned in conversations at the local Eupora coffee house, where townsfolk gathered to discuss the latest happenings. However, not everyone in Eupora was a believer in Katia's abilities. Some skeptics dismissed her as a charlatan, claiming that her predictions were nothing more than lucky guesses. This skepticism only fueled Katia's determination to prove herself and silence her critics. As the days passed, Katia's dedication to her craft intensified. She spent hours studying astrology charts, practicing her psychic readings, and honing her skills. She had recently purchased a new set of tarot cards from Mystic Moon Magic Shop, a popular metaphysical store in nearby Starkville. The cards were said to be enchanted, enhancing the accuracy of her readings. On the cold winter evening of January 23, 2008, the small town of Eupora, Mississippi was cloaked in an eerie stillness. The air hung heavy with a sense of foreboding, as if nature itself held its breath in anticipation of the tragic events that were about to unfold. As twilight descended upon the town, casting long shadows across the landscape, the lifeless body of 29-year-old Katia Powell was discovered beneath the majestic magnolia tree that adorned her backyard. The grim discovery was made by Patty Delgado, a close friend and neighbor of the deceased psychic and astrologer. Patty, who had grown concerned after not hearing from Katia for several days, ventured over to her house to check on her well-being. What Patty encountered was a scene straight out of a nightmare. The lifeless body of her dear friend lay sprawled on the ground, bathed in the pale moonlight. Shock and horror washed over Patty as she frantically dialed emergency services, her trembling voice betraying her disbelief at the sight before her. Within minutes, the Eupora Police Department descended upon the scene, their flashing blue lights illuminating the otherwise dark and somber neighborhood. Officers cordoned off the area, preventing curious onlookers from getting too close. The news of Katia's untimely demise spread like wildfire through the tight-knit community, leaving its residents in a state of shock and disbelief. Local media outlets, such as the Eupora Gazette and the Mississippi Times, dedicated coverage to the perplexing case. The story captured the attention of the nation, with news outlets like CNN and Fox News picking up the story, eager to delve into the enigma surrounding Katia's demise. As the days turned into weeks, the investigation took numerous twists and turns, leading detectives down a labyrinth of clues and potential suspects. The once peaceful streets of Eupora became a hotbed of speculation and intrigue, as residents grappled with the unsettling knowledge that a killer could be lurking among them. As news of Katia Powell's tragic death spread throughout the town of Eupora, the community was left in shock and disbelief. The small Mississippi town, known for its close-knit residents and peaceful atmosphere, had never experienced such a heinous crime. The murder of a beloved psychic and astrologer sent shockwaves through the community, leaving everyone searching for answers. The investigation into Katia's death was swiftly taken over by the local police department, with detectives Felicia Wallister and Sherry Backram leading the charge. These seasoned investigators were no strangers to solving crimes, having successfully closed numerous cases in the past. Their dedication and commitment to justice were evident from the moment they arrived at the crime scene. The detectives meticulously combed through every inch of the area surrounding the magnolia tree where Kadia's lifeless body was found. They carefully collected any potential evidence, taking note of even the smallest detail. Every leaf, every blade of grass, and every footprint was analyzed, as the detectives left no stone unturned in their quest for the truth. As the investigation unfolded, the detectives discovered several key pieces of evidence that would prove crucial in piecing together the events leading up to Kadia's death. They found a series of text messages on her phone, indicating a possible conflict with an unidentified individual. The detectives traced the number, leading them to a person of interest who lived in a neighboring town. The detectives also interviewed friends and family members, hoping to gain insight into Kadia's personal life and potential motives for her murder. They discovered that she had recently been featured in a local newspaper article, highlighting her unique abilities as a psychic and astrologer. The article had garnered attention from both supporters and skeptics alike, leading to a heated debate within the community. Additionally, the detectives uncovered a diary belonging to Kadia, in which she detailed her aspirations and fears. The entries revealed her desire to expand her psychic abilities and her struggle to gain acceptance from her father, Reverend Vance Powell. These personal insights shed light on the complexities of Kadia's life and provided the detectives with a deeper understanding of the victim. As the investigation continued, the detectives faced numerous challenges and setbacks. They encountered false leads, unreliable witnesses, and a lack of concrete evidence. However, their unwavering determination and commitment to justice kept them focused on their ultimate goal, finding Kadia's killer and bringing them to justice. Reverend Vance Vice Powell, a Baptist minister in the neighboring town of Mathiston, found himself at the center of a chilling murder investigation. The prime suspect in the tragic death of his daughter, Kadia Powell, Reverend Powell's strong religious convictions and disapproval of her psychic and astrological work raised eyebrows among the investigators. As the police interrogated Reverend Powell, they sought to uncover any potential motives he might have had for committing such a heinous crime. The suspect's response was a mix of anger and denial, vehemently proclaiming his innocence. However, the investigators knew they had to dig deeper into his background to uncover the truth. Reverend Powell's opposition to his daughter's involvement in the psychic world was well known in the tight-knit community. He believed that her work was influenced by evil forces and would lead her down a path to damnation. This belief put him at odds with Kadia and caused tension within their relationship. The investigators delved into Reverend Powell's past, searching for any evidence that could link him to the crime. They discovered that he had a reputation for being a strict and controlling father, often clashing with Kadia over her choices in life. The tension between them had escalated in the months leading up to her death, as Kadia had expressed her desire to expand her psychic abilities. To further complicate matters, Reverend Powell's sermons at the Mathiston Baptist Church had become increasingly fiery and passionate in the weeks preceding the murder. He had been warning his congregation about the dangers of the occult and the influence of demons in people's lives. Some members of the community wondered if his sermons were a veiled confession of guilt. As the investigation continued, the detectives meticulously combed through Reverend Powell's phone records, financial transactions, and personal belongings. They interviewed friends, family, and members of the congregation to gather more information about his character and potential motives. The investigators knew that they had a challenging task ahead of them. They had to separate fact from speculation and build a solid case against Reverend Powell if they were to bring justice for Kadia's tragic death. The truth, they believed, was hidden somewhere within the web of secrets and emotions that surrounded this small Mississippi town. As the investigation into the murder of Kadia Powell unfolded, a shocking revelation came to light. Another life had been cut short in the small town of Eupora, Mississippi. The victim, Syria Denham, a 25-year-old cashier at the local Dollar General, was found dead in her own home. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community, deepening the sense of fear and unease that had already taken hold. Syria's body had been hidden in the refrigerator, a chilling detail that added to the macabre nature of the crime. The police determined that she had been killed a few days prior to Kadia's tragic death. The timing and proximity of these two murders raised suspicion and intensified the urgency of the investigation. The focus quickly turned to Lancelot Hamilton, Syria's boyfriend and an ex-felon. Eyewitnesses had spotted his distinctive pickup truck near Kadia's house on the day of her murder. This crucial piece of information made Lancelot a person of interest in both cases. To further complicate matters, Lancelot's criminal history added a layer of complexity to the case. The investigators meticulously reviewed his past convictions, searching for any connection to the murders. They reached out to law enforcement agencies in neighboring towns, collaborating and sharing information to build a comprehensive profile of Lancelot. As the investigation unfolded, the media interest surrounding the case grew. Local newspapers covered the story. The tight-knit community found itself thrust into the spotlight, grappling with the weight of these heinous crimes. The investigators faced mounting pressure to solve the murders and bring the perpetrators to justice. Every lead was pursued with unwavering determination as they sifted through evidence, interviewed witnesses, and analyzed forensic findings. The clock ticked, and the town anxiously awaited answers. In their relentless pursuit of justice, the police made a breakthrough discovery a few weeks after the initial investigation. On a cold winter day in late January of 2008, they uncovered a hidden diary belonging to Syria Denham, the 25-year-old cashier at the local Dollar General who was found dead in her own home. The diary provided a glimpse into the tumultuous relationship between Syria and her boyfriend, Lancelot Hamilton, an ex-felon who quickly became a person of interest in the case. The diary entries painted a disturbing picture of a relationship marred by domestic disputes and violence. Syria detailed instances of physical abuse and emotional manipulation, shedding light on the possible motives behind her tragic death. The pages were filled with her fears and desperation as she struggled to break free from the toxic cycle of her relationship with Lancelot. The police meticulously analyzed the diary, documenting every detail and potential clue. The entries revealed that Syria had confided in a close friend, expressing her desire to leave Lancelot and seek help. The investigators immediately reached out to this friend, hoping to gather more information that could aid in their quest for justice. As the investigation unfolded, the police uncovered additional evidence linking Lancelot to the murder of Claudia Powell, the 29-year-old psychic and astrologer whose lifeless body was found under the magnolia tree in her own backyard. Surveillance footage from a nearby gas station captured Lancelot's pickup truck near Claudia's house on the day of the murder, providing a crucial piece of the puzzle. With the newfound knowledge from Syria's diary and the surveillance footage, the investigators were determined to connect the dots and bring the truth to light. They delved deeper into Lancelot's background, uncovering a history of violent behavior and a criminal record that further fueled their suspicions. As the investigation reached its critical juncture, the police were closing in on their suspects. The truth behind the deaths of Claudia Powell and Syria Denham was within reach, and the town held its breath in anticipation of justice being served. Lancelot Hamilton, the primary person of interest in the murder investigation, faced intense scrutiny from the police. With his troubled past and association with the late Syria Denham, suspicions surrounding his involvement in the murders grew stronger. The investigators delved deep into Lancelot's personality, dreams, and possible motives, leaving no stone unturned in their quest for the truth. During the interrogation, Lancelot's demeanor betrayed a mixture of anger and fear, as he struggled to maintain his composure under the mounting evidence against him. The investigators skillfully probed into his background, meticulously dissecting his every move in the days leading up to the murders. As the questioning intensified, Lancelot's facade began to crumble. His attempts to evade the investigators' inquiries became increasingly futile as the weight of the evidence bore down on him. The police presented him with compelling evidence, including eyewitness accounts placing his pickup truck near Claudia Powell's house on the day of her murder. These accounts were further bolstered by surveillance footage from a nearby gas station, capturing Lancelot's vehicle at the scene. In addition to the circumstantial evidence, the investigators uncovered a disturbing connection between Lancelot and Syria. The recently discovered diary of Syria Denham revealed a tumultuous relationship marred by domestic disputes and violence. This revelation painted a chilling picture of a troubled dynamic between the couple, raising further suspicions about Lancelot's potential involvement in both murders. The police, driven by an unwavering commitment to justice, continued to dig deeper into Lancelot's background. They reached out to acquaintances, friends, and family members, seeking any information that could shed light on his motives. The investigators meticulously combed through phone records, financial transactions, and social media profiles, piecing together a comprehensive timeline of Lancelot's activities in the days leading up to the murders. As the investigation unfolded, the media's attention turned towards this gripping case that had captivated the small town of Eupora. Local newspapers ran updates on the investigation, while television news stations dedicated segments to the latest developments. The community, gripped by fear and curiosity, anxiously awaited the resolution of this haunting mystery. With Lancelot Hamilton at the center of the investigation, the police were determined to bring justice to the victims and closure to the community. As the case approached its climax, the truth remained just out of reach, tantalizingly close yet frustratingly elusive. After an intense investigation, the truth behind the murders that shook the small town of Eupora finally came to light, revealing Lancelot Hamilton as the cold-blooded killer. Lancelot, a troubled ex-felon, had committed the heinous crimes out of fear that his dark secret would be exposed. The police meticulously unraveled the intricate web of deception, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of justice. The motive for the first murder, that of Syria Denham, a 25-year-old cashier at the local Dollar General, was rooted in a tumultuous relationship marred by domestic disputes and violence. Lancelot's fear of Syria's ghost haunting him did not stop him from committing the unthinkable act of taking her life. Little did he know that this act would set off a chain of events that would ultimately lead to his own downfall. The discovery of Syria's hidden diary proved to be a crucial turning point in the investigation. The diary detailed the troubled relationship between Syria and Lancelot, providing valuable insights into their lives and the events that transpired leading up to her tragic death. This newfound knowledge allowed the investigators to connect the dots and follow the trail of evidence. As the investigation progressed, the police uncovered a chilling connection between Syria's murder and the death of Powell, the 29-year-old psychic and astrologer. Lancelot's fear of Syria's ghost exposing his dark secret to Katia had driven him to silence her forever. The police painstakingly pieced together the timeline of events, meticulously analyzing phone records, surveillance footage, and witness testimonies to build their case against Lancelot. On the day of the arrest, the atmosphere in Eupora was heavy with anticipation. The entire community was on edge, eager for justice to be served. The police, armed with overwhelming evidence, closed in on Lancelot. The arrest took place on a cold winter morning, the same chilling backdrop that had witnessed the crimes committed. As the handcuffs clicked shut, a collective sigh of relief swept through the town. The arrest of Lancelot Hamilton sent shockwaves through the community, leaving Katia's family devastated and the townspeople grappling with the horrifying reality that such evil could exist in their midst. The media frenzy that followed was unprecedented, with news outlets from across the state covering the shocking details of the case. The story of murder under the magnolia trees became a cautionary tale, a reminder that darkness can lurk even in the most seemingly idyllic places. The trial that ensued was a solemn affair, filled with heightened emotions and a sense of justice hanging in the balance. District Attorney Warren Prancett, a seasoned prosecutor known for his unwavering dedication to upholding the law, presented a compelling case against Lancelot Hamilton. Prancett meticulously outlined the chilling details of the murders, painting a vivid picture of the heinous crimes committed in the small town of Eupora, Mississippi. In the courtroom, the victim's family sat with a mixture of grief and anticipation as they watched the proceedings unfold. The defense attorney, David Joe Lodies, a renowned legal expert known for his tenacity, fought fiercely to cast doubt on the evidence presented by the prosecution. Lodies argued that the police had rushed to judgment and that there were other plausible suspects that had not been thoroughly investigated. Throughout the trial, the courtroom was filled with tension as witnesses were called to the stand. Friends and acquaintances of both victims bravely took the stand, recounting their interactions with Lancelot Hamilton and the victims in the months leading up to their deaths. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence, including phone records, DNA analysis, and eyewitness testimonies, all pointing towards Hamilton's guilt. As the trial progressed, the media frenzy surrounding the case reached a fever pitch. News outlets from across Mississippi descended upon Eupora, eager to report on the sensational trial. Journalists from jostled for prime spots in the overcrowded courtroom, their pens poised to capture every detail of the proceedings. After weeks of intense courtroom drama, the jury finally reached a verdict. The courtroom fell into a hushed silence as the foreperson stood up to deliver the verdict. Guilty. The word reverberated through the room, causing gasps and tears to flow from the victims' families. The weight of the guilty verdict was palpable, offering a sense of closure to those who had lost their loved ones so tragically. Lancelot Hamilton, now convicted of both murders, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentencing brought a mix of relief and sorrow to the victims' families as they grappled with the finality of the court's decision. Some found solace in the fact that justice had been served, while others still struggled to come to terms with the loss they had endured. The impact of the trial extended far beyond the courtroom walls, leaving an indelible mark on the community of Eupora. The townsfolk, once united in their grief, now faced the difficult task of healing and moving forward. After the conclusion of the trial, the individuals involved in the murder under the magnolia trees case embarked on their own journeys of healing and moving forward. Reverend Vance Weiss Powell, Kadia's father, grappled with the guilt and remorse of his strained relationship with his daughter. He sought solace in his faith, finding comfort in the support of his congregation and the prayers of the community. Reverend Powell dedicated himself to spreading a message of love and forgiveness, hoping to prevent similar tragedies from occurring in the future. Meanwhile, the police investigators, Detectives Felicia Wallister and Sherry Backram, continued their tireless pursuit of justice in other cases. They remain committed to protecting the community, tirelessly working to solve crimes and bring closure to victims and their families. Their dedication and meticulous approach earned them accolades from their colleagues and the respect of the community. Kadia's family and friends found solace in each other, supporting one another through the difficult process of grieving and healing. They held a memorial service to honor Kadia's memory, inviting friends, family, and community members to celebrate her life. The service was a somber yet uplifting event, filled with heartfelt speeches, music, and shared memories. The community came together, offering their condolences and support to Kadia's loved ones. In the wider community of Eupora, Mississippi, the impact of the case was profound. The tragic events had shaken the town to its core, leaving a lasting imprint on its residents. The local newspaper, the Eupora Times, dedicated several articles to the case, documenting the investigation, trial, and the aftermath. The case also garnered attention from regional news outlets, with television stations like WDVA and WAPT covering the trial proceedings. As the town slowly began to heal, the community rallied together, organizing events and initiatives to promote healing and unity. Local businesses, such as the Magnolia Diner and the Eupora Flower Shop, offered their services in support to the victims' families. The tragedy had brought the community closer, fostering a sense of resilience and solidarity. In the years that followed, Eupora, Mississippi, continued to rebuild and move forward. The murder under the magnolia trees case served as a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing our loved ones. The town learned valuable lessons about the power of community, compassion, and the pursuit of justice. The memory of Kadia and Syria remained alive in the hearts of those who knew them, and their legacy served as a reminder to embrace life and support one another. The murder under the magnolia trees case remains etched in the annals of Eupora's history, a chilling reminder of the fragility of life and the depths of human darkness. It serves as a testament to the tireless efforts of law enforcement, the resilience of the victims' loved ones, and the enduring power of justice. In the affluent Orange County suburb of Mission Viejo, California, Kevin Ziegler, age 43, lived a life that many would envy. As a financial analyst, Ziegler had carved out a successful career for himself, a testament to his hard work and dedication. A graduate of the University of California, Berkeley, he had always shown a keen acumen for numbers and an ambition that propelled him from a humble beginning to the ranks of respected professionals in the financial sector. Ziegler's home life, on the surface, appeared equally fulfilling. Married to Olivia, a high school teacher with aspirations of authorship, the couple had 2 children and resided in a picturesque neighborhood emblematic of the American dream. They were often seen at local spots, enjoying the community's offerings, from the serene Lake Mission Viejo to the bustling shops at Mission Viejo, where the family could be spotted on weekends browsing through the latest releases at Barnes & Noble or enjoying a meal at one of the local eateries. In the days leading up to his untimely death in September 2003, Ziegler was reportedly working on a significant project at work, one that he believed could be a turning point in his career. According to colleagues, he had been putting in extra hours, fueled by the dream of one day becoming a financial director. His dedication was evident in his meticulous planning and the detailed presentations he was known for. However, beneath the facade of professional success and domestic bliss, there were rumblings of discontent. Friends and family hinted at tensions within the marriage, though few could have predicted the tragic outcome. In this period, the world was still reeling from the aftermath of the U.S. invasion of Iraq, and the Columbia Space Shuttle disaster earlier in the year had cast a shadow over the nation. Yet, in the Ziegler household, a different kind of storm was brewing, one that would end in a shocking and violent act. On the evening of September 15, 2003, the tranquility of Mission Viejo, a community renowned for its safety and high quality of life, was shattered. Kevin Ziegler, a 43-year-old financial analyst, was found dead in his garage, a victim of a point-blank shooting. The discovery was made by Mark Thompson, a neighbor and friend, who had ventured over in the fading light to return a borrowed lawnmower, an act reflecting the close-knit nature of the community. The weather that evening was uncharacteristically damp for Southern California, with a light rain that had begun to fall, casting a somber mood over the neighborhood. Thompson, upon finding Ziegler's body, was overcome with shock. His immediate reaction was to call 911, his voice shaking as he struggled to convey the gravity of the situation to the dispatcher. The dispatcher, trained for moments of crisis, worked to calm Thompson while simultaneously dispatching police and emergency services to the scene. Mission Viejo, part of Orange County, was known for its idyllic settings and had been featured in various media as a desirable place to live. The community, with its well-kept homes and manicured lawns, was a stark contrast to the crime scene that awaited the first responders. The Ziegler residence, a two-story home typical of the area's architecture, now bore the hallmarks of a tragedy. The community, which typically worried about mundane issues reported in the local Mission Viejo dispatch, such as city council decisions or school board meetings, was now the backdrop for a real-life crime drama, the likes of which were usually confined to the pages of the Los Angeles Times or the nightly news. Upon receiving the distress call on the evening of September 15, 2003, the Mission Viejo Police Department acted with immediate urgency. Detectives Sarah Gomez and Eric Miraflores, both with years of experience in the field of criminal investigation, were dispatched to the scene. Their arrival was prompt, a testament to the efficiency and dedication of the local law enforcement in maintaining the safety and security of this Orange County community. The scene that awaited Gomez and Miraflores was grim. Kevin Ziegler, a 43-year-old financial analyst known in the community for his professional success and active family life, lay dead in his own garage, a victim of a shooting at point-blank range. The garage, typically a mundane space filled with the trappings of suburban life such as sports equipment and gardening tools, had been transformed into a crime scene. The air, still heavy with the scent of rain from the earlier downpour, was now tinged with the metallic smell of blood. Detectives Gomez and Miraflores approached the investigation with a professional calmness, but the brutality of the crime was not lost on them. The crime scene was meticulously documented, with photographs taken and evidence collected. Among the items of interest were bullet casings and potential fingerprints, crucial pieces in the puzzle of who had committed this heinous act. The methodology of the investigation was thorough, reflecting advancements in forensic science that had been highlighted in media outlets such as CSI, a popular television show at the time that had brought forensic science into the living rooms of the American public. The detectives utilized a variety of tools and techniques, from dusting for fingerprints to canvassing the neighborhood for witnesses. Their goal was clear: to piece together the events leading to Kevin Ziegler's death and to bring the perpetrator to justice. In the days that followed, the community of Mission Viejo, typically concerned with the comings and goings reported in the local Mission Viejo dispatch or the broader issues covered by the Los Angeles Times, found itself at the center of a real-life investigation. The tranquility of the suburb had been disrupted, leaving residents to grapple with the reality of the crime among them. The investigation into Kevin Ziegler's murder swiftly turned its focus towards those closest to him, with Olivia Ziegler, his 41-year-old wife, emerging as suspect number one. Olivia, a high school teacher with aspirations beyond her classroom walls, had often spoken of her dream to pen a romance novel. Her life in the picturesque Orange County suburb of Mission Viejo, while seemingly idyllic, was under scrutiny as detectives delved into the intricacies of her marriage to Kevin. Olivia's interrogation was conducted with precision, reflecting the seasoned expertise of detectives Sarah Gomez and Eric Miraflores. The questioning took place against the backdrop of a community still reeling from the shock of the crime, a sentiment echoed in the somber tones of local media coverage. The Mission Viejo dispatch, along with regional news outlets, had begun to piece together the narrative of a troubled marriage, hinting at financial strains and personal grievances that may have motivated the crime. During the interrogation, Olivia's demeanor fluctuated between composed and visibly distressed. She vehemently denied any involvement in her husband's death, her voice firm yet tinged with emotion as she recounted the details of their life together. Her aspirations, once centered around literary success, were now overshadowed by the grim reality of her situation. The detectives probed Olivia's account, searching for inconsistencies or signs of deceit. The questioning, methodical in its approach, was reminiscent of the high-stakes interviews portrayed in popular crime dramas of the time, such as NBC's A Law and Order. The police sought to understand not just the facts, but the emotional undercurrents of Olivia's relationship with Kevin, believing that the motive for murder often lay hidden in the complexities of personal connections. As the interrogation unfolded, the community of Mission Viejo watched with bated breath, the case becoming a focal point of discussion. Neighbors and friends, once casual observers of the Ziegler's life, now found themselves questioning what they thought they knew about the family next door. As the investigation into Kevin Ziegler's murder deepened, attention shifted to Lana Henry, a 31-year-old real estate agent entangled in a secret sexual relationship with the victim. Lana, characterized by her ambition and independence, harbored dreams of establishing her own real estate empire in the competitive market of Southern California. Her involvement with Kevin, however, cast a shadow over her professional aspirations, drawing her into a narrative far removed from the glossy listings and upscale open houses that defined her career. The interrogation of Lana Henry was conducted with a keen awareness of the delicate balance between personal and professional lives in affluent communities like Mission Viejo. Detectives Gomez and Miraflores, leveraging their experience, navigated the questioning with a focus on uncovering motives rooted in jealousy or fear of loss. The backdrop of this interrogation was a society still grappling with scandals that dominated headlines in 2003, from corporate fraud to celebrity trials, reflecting a fascination with success and moral fallibility. Throughout the interrogation, Lana maintained a composed demeanor, her responses measured and deliberate. She articulated her shock and grief over Kevin's death, emphasizing her innocence and distancing herself from any motive for murder. Her calmness under scrutiny mirrored the poise expected of a successful real estate agent, accustomed to negotiating under pressure and managing perceptions. The police, in their questioning, sought to piece together Lana's whereabouts and interactions with Kevin in the days leading up to the murder, scrutinizing every detail for inconsistencies. As the investigation unfolded, the community of Mission Viejo, usually preoccupied with the serene lifestyle and local events reported in the Mission Viejo Dispatch, found itself at the heart of a mystery that echoed the dramatic narratives seen on national news. Lana Henry, once a figure synonymous with real estate success, was now a key player in a story that blurred the lines between personal tragedy and public spectacle. On a crisp morning on September 20, 2003, a pivotal breakthrough occurred in the investigation of Kevin Ziegler's murder. The serene suburb of Mission Viejo, typically bustling with the weekend activities of its affluent residents, became the focal point of a significant development. A local pawn shop, nestled among the array of businesses catering to the community's upscale clientele, reported a suspicious transaction that would alter the course of the investigation. The shop, known for its discreet dealings in high-end goods, had recently acquired a firearm that matched the description of the murder weapon. The seller, identified as David Forster, a 29-year-old personal trainer with aspirations of opening his own gym, was not typically associated with such transactions, raising immediate red flags for law enforcement. Detectives Sarah Gomez and Eric Miraflores responded with the urgency that had characterized their approach to the case. Their arrival at the pawn shop was swift, underscoring the gravity of the new evidence. The shop's surveillance footage provided them with clear images of Forster, adding a tangible lead to their investigation. This development, reminiscent of the plot twists often found in the crime dramas that dominated television in 2003, added a layer of complexity to the case. The discovery prompted a reevaluation of the relationships and motives surrounding Kevin Ziegler's murder. Forster, previously on the periphery of the investigation, was now a central figure. His connection to Olivia Ziegler, revealed through further probing, suggested a web of personal entanglements that could provide a motive for the crime. As the news of the breakthrough spread, the community of Mission Viejo, usually insulated from the kind of violence that grabs national headlines, found itself at the center of a narrative filled with intrigue and betrayal. The local media, including the Mission Viejo Dispatch, closely followed the developments, capturing the attention of residents who were unaccustomed to such disruptions in their peaceful enclave. With the investigation's focus shifting towards David Forster following the pawn shop revelation, the Mission Viejo Police Department intensified their efforts. David, a 29-year-old personal trainer with entrepreneurial dreams of starting his own fitness center, found himself under the harsh glare of the law. His illicit sexual relationship with Olivia Ziegler, once a private affair, became a critical element of the case, suggesting a complex motive rooted in personal connections and emotional entanglements. The interrogation of David Forster was conducted against a backdrop of increasing media attention. As details of the case emerged, Local outlets like the Mission Viejo Dispatch and regional news sources began to draw parallels between this real-life drama and the intricate plots of popular crime shows which were captivating audiences in 2003. The community of Mission Viejo, typically more concerned with local events and lifestyle features, found itself at the center of a narrative that combined elements of passion, betrayal, and violence. During questioning, David's responses vacillated between moments of anger and profound despair, reflecting the emotional turmoil of being implicated in such a grave crime. His demeanor, at times defensive, provided investigators with insights into his psychological state and the nature of his relationship with Olivia. The interrogation process, meticulous in its execution, sought to unravel the sequence of events leading up to Kevin Ziegler's murder, with David's potential motive scrutinized under the lens of forensic evidence and behavioral analysis. As the case unfolded, the tranquil suburb of Mission Viejo became the backdrop for a story that resonated with themes of love, jealousy, and revenge, capturing the attention of a community unaccustomed to such disruptions. The investigation into David Forster's involvement, propelled by the discovery of new evidence, marked a turning point in the case, drawing connections between personal vendettas and the act of murder. As the investigation into Kevin Ziegler's murder progressed, the pieces of the puzzle began to coalesce, centering on David Forster as the perpetrator. A 29-year-old personal trainer with aspirations of opening his own gym, Forster's involvement in the crime was initially obscured by his peripheral presence in the victim's life. However, his relationship with Olivia Ziegler, the victim's wife, emerged as a critical axis around which the motive for the murder revolved. The revelation that Olivia had manipulated Forster with fabricated tales of abuse at the hands of her husband added a layer of complexity to the case. She painted a grim picture of her life with Kevin, alleging torture with knives and fire, thereby inciting Forster to commit the ultimate act of violence. This manipulation, rooted in deceit, highlighted the dark underbelly of personal relationships and the lengths to which individuals might go to extricate themselves from undesirable situations. Forster, driven by a misplaced sense of heroism and protective fervor, carried out the murder, shooting Kevin Ziegler point-blank upon his return home. This act of violence, executed with chilling precision, was the culmination of a series of manipulations and lies that blurred the lines between victim and perpetrator. The community of Mission Viejo, nestled in the heart of Orange County and typically insulated from the violent upheavals that grip other parts of the country, found itself grappling with the reality of a murder rooted in domestic discord. The case, with its twists and turns, bore resemblance to a soap opera or telenovela. However, for the residents of Mission Viejo, the murder of Kevin Ziegler was a stark reminder of the fragility of the veneer of suburban tranquility. As the investigation drew to a close, the motives and actions of David Forster and Olivia Ziegler were laid bare, revealing a tangled web of emotions and deceit that led to a tragic end. On the morning of September 25, 2003, the quiet streets of Mission Viejo were disrupted by the sound of police sirens as law enforcement moved to arrest David Forster, the man now identified as Kevin Ziegler's murderer. The arrest, conducted with the precision and seriousness characteristic of the Mission Viejo Police Department, marked a pivotal moment in a case that had gripped the community. David Forster, a 29-year-old personal trainer whose aspirations of opening his own gym had been overshadowed by his involvement in a deadly love triangle, was taken into custody without incident. His reaction to the arrest was one of surprise and resignation, as if the weight of his actions had finally settled upon him. Alongside Forster, Olivia Ziegler, the mastermind behind the tragic plot, was also arrested, her role as the instigator of her husband's murder now fully exposed. The reaction of Kevin Ziegler's family to the arrest was a complex mix of relief and profound grief. While justice was being served, it did little to fill the void left by Kevin's untimely death. The community, too, was left to grapple with the unsettling reality that such a heinous act could occur in their seemingly peaceful suburb. Local media outlets, including the Mission Viejo Dispatch, covered the arrest extensively, reflecting the shock and sadness felt by many. As the case moved towards trial, the actions and motivations of David Forster and Olivia Ziegler were scrutinized, offering a cautionary tale about the destructive power of deceit and manipulation. The arrest of the perpetrators brought a sense of closure to some, but for others, it was a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the complexity of human relationships. The trial of David Forster and Olivia Ziegler for the murder of Kevin Ziegler unfolded in a courtroom filled with tension, anticipation, and the heavy weight of grief. As the proceedings began, the prosecutor, Angie Hashimoto, a seasoned attorney known for her meticulous preparation and unwavering commitment to justice, presented a compelling case against the defendants. Hart's argument painted a vivid picture of a premeditated murder, orchestrated by Olivia and executed by David, rooted in deception and betrayal. On the defense side, Michael Choi, a defense attorney with a reputation for his persuasive courtroom demeanor and strategic acumen, argued on behalf of Forster and Olivia. Evans sought to frame his client's actions within the context of emotional manipulation and psychological distress, suggesting that the complex dynamics of their relationships had clouded their judgment. The trial, closely followed by local media, echoed the public's fascination with true crime stories and real-life cases covered in the news. The community of Mission Viejo, still reeling from the shock of the murder in their midst, watched as the legal drama unfolded, bearing witness to the unraveling of a tragedy that had struck at the heart of their suburban tranquility. In the end, the jury delivered a guilty verdict for both David Forster and Olivia Ziegler, sentencing them to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict was met with mixed emotions, relief that justice had been served, but sorrow for the lives irrevocably changed by the crime. Kevin Ziegler's family, while grateful for the legal resolution, mourned the loss of a husband, father, and son, whose absence left a void no verdict could fill. The trial's conclusion marked the end of a chapter for the community of Mission Viejo, but the story of Kevin Ziegler's murder remained a somber reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind the facade of a perfect life. In the aftermath of the trial that captivated the community of Mission Viejo, the lives of those involved in the case of Kevin Ziegler's murder began to slowly adjust to a new normal. The conviction and sentencing of David Forster and Olivia Ziegler to life without parole brought a sense of closure to a saga that had unfolded with the intensity of the crime dramas that were popular in the early 2000s, such as CSI and A Law and Order. Yet, the reality of the situation left a lasting impact on the community, a stark reminder of the fragility of trust and the depths of human complexity. Detectives Sarah Gomez and Eric Miraflores, who had been at the forefront of the investigation, continued their work with the Mission Viejo Police Department, their experience with the case adding a somber layer of wisdom to their approach to law enforcement. The case had not only tested their investigative skills, but also offered a poignant lesson in the unpredictable nature of human emotions and motivations. For the family of Kevin Ziegler, life moved forward amidst the shadow of loss. The void left by Kevin's untimely death remained, a painful reminder of the vibrant life that had been so abruptly taken. Yet, in their grief, they found strength in each other and in the support of a community that had rallied around them during their time of need. The community of Mission Viejo, known for its serene lifestyle and picturesque surroundings, had been shaken by the events that transpired. Local media, including the Mission Viejo Dispatch, which had closely followed the case, continued to reflect on the lessons learned and the questions raised about safety, trust, and the hidden turmoil that can exist behind closed doors. As the years passed, the case of Kevin Ziegler's murder remained a touchstone for discussions about crime and justice in suburban America. For those directly affected, the journey towards healing and understanding continued, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of tragedy. The tragic case of Kevin Ziegler reminds us of the dark complexities of human relationships and the devastating impact of deceit and betrayal. This episode of True Crime Case Files has explored the depths of love, jealousy, and ultimately murder in the quiet suburb of Mission Viejo. Maggie Luen, a warm-hearted and hospitable woman, was a 45-year-old housewife who took great pride in her role as a mother to her two children, Mocha and Tucker. Married to local dentist Dr. Dean Luen DDS, Maggie dedicated herself to maintaining the perfect household. However, beneath her cheerful exterior, Maggie yearned for excitement and fulfillment beyond the confines of domesticity. Desperate to escape the monotony of her everyday life in Elgin, Illinois, she found solace in the local women's book club. The book club, known as the Literary Ladies, was a close-knit group of women who met every Tuesday evening at each of their houses. Led by the charismatic and enigmatic Linda Bernardino Scalco, the club provided an escape from the mundane reality of their suburban lives. They discussed everything from classic literature to contemporary bestsellers, with a particular love of the novelist Joyce Lehman. They loved to share their thoughts and opinions over cups of steaming coffee and plates of homemade sugar cookies. Maggie, with her insatiable thirst for literary adventure, quickly became an active member of the book club. She relished the intellectual discussions, the camaraderie, and the opportunity to step out of her comfort zone. The club became her sanctuary, a place where she could explore her hidden desires and dreams. Little did Maggie know that her involvement with the literary ladies would lead her down a dark and treacherous path. As the days grew colder in January 1993, a sinister plot began to unfold within the confines of the book club. Secrets, jealousy, and betrayal simmered beneath the surface, threatening to shatter the illusion of harmony. On a fateful day, January 23, 1993, with the weather bleak and cold, Maggie's life came to a tragic end. Her body was discovered in her own bathroom, brutally beaten to death with a claw hammer. It was Karen Evans, Maggie's closest friend and next-door neighbor, who made the horrifying discovery. Karen, a petite woman with a heart-shaped face, auburn hair, and a heart of gold, had gone over to Maggie's house for their regular Saturday morning coffee and chat session. Little did she know that this visit would forever change her life. As Karen entered the house, she immediately noticed something was amiss. The air felt heavy with an unspoken tension. The usual warmth and laughter that filled the air during their weekly get-togethers were replaced by an eerie silence. Concerned, Karen called out for Maggie, but there was no response. She made her way towards the bathroom. As Karen made her way up the stairs, her heart pounding in her chest, she noticed a faint smell of iron in the air. The bathroom door stood ajar, casting an eerie glow onto the hallway. With trembling hands, she pushed open the door, and what she saw would haunt her forever. Maggie's lifeless body lay sprawled on the cold tile floor, her once vibrant eyes now vacant and lifeless. Blood stained the walls, and the claw hammer, the murder weapon, lay beside her. Upon opening the bathroom door, Karen's worst fears were realized. Karen's initial reaction was one of shock and disbelief. She couldn't comprehend the brutality of what she was witnessing. Panic surged through her veins as she frantically dialed 911, her voice trembling as she relayed the grisly scene to the dispatcher. News of the murder spread like wildfire through the tight-knit community of Elgin. The town was gripped with a sense of unease, as neighbors locked their doors and whispered about the possibility of a killer lurking among them. On that fateful winter day of January 23, 1993, tragedy struck the quiet town of Elgin, Illinois. The murder of Maggie Luen, a beloved housewife and mother, sent shockwaves through the community, leaving everyone in disbelief. The police, led by Detective Carl Bledsoe, wasted no time in launching a thorough investigation into this heinous crime. Arriving promptly at the crime scene, the police were met with a chilling sight. The bathroom, once a place of tranquility and cleanliness, now bore the grim evidence of a brutal attack. Bloodstains splattered across the walls, and floor told a story of violence and terror. It was clear that Maggie had been mercilessly beaten to death with a claw hammer, a weapon that had been turned against her in her own home. Detective Bledsoe and his team meticulously combed through every inch of the crime scene, leaving no stone unturned. They meticulously collected any potential evidence, ensuring that no detail went unnoticed. Fingerprints were carefully lifted, blood samples were taken, and any possible evidence was meticulously cataloged. As the investigation unfolded, the detectives began to piece together the last moments of Maggie's life. Interviews with friends and family revealed that she had been an active member of a local women's book club. Could there be a connection between her involvement in the club and her untimely demise? The detectives delved deeper into the lives of the book club members, scrutinizing their backgrounds and relationships. They discovered that tensions had been simmering beneath the surface, hidden behind the facade of friendship. Petty jealousies, secret affairs, and whispered rumors plagued the seemingly innocent lives of these women. The media, hungry for a sensational story, descended upon Elgin, amplifying the already palpable tension in the air. News outlets like the local newspaper, the Elgin Courier, and the television station, WGN-TV, covered the case extensively, eager to capture every twist and turn. The town, once known for its peaceful, boringly Midwestern charm, became a hub of speculation and intrigue. Days turned into weeks, and the investigation continued to unfold. Detective Bledsoe analyzed the evidence, sifting through countless leads and alibis. The pressure to solve this case weighed heavily on his shoulders as the community anxiously awaited justice for Maggie Luen. Linda Bernardino Scalco, a 61-year-old local librarian and esteemed leader of the Women's Book Club, found herself at the center of suspicion in the shocking murder of Maggie Luen. Known for her bookish exterior, sharp intellect, and extensive knowledge of literature, Linda had always presented herself as a respected member of the community. However, as the investigation unfolded, a hidden side to Linda's life began to emerge, casting doubt on her innocence. The Women's Book Club, once thought to be a gathering of literary enthusiasts, turned out to be far more than meets the eye. Behind closed doors, this seemingly innocent group transformed into a secret society of female sexual exploration, engaging in clandestine activities such as swinging and orgies that shocked the conservative and very Midwestern community of Elgin, Illinois. The members of the club, including Linda and Maggie, indulged in a world of forbidden sexual desires, where erotic boundaries were pushed and inhibitions were cast aside. As the investigators delved deeper into Linda's background, they discovered a trail of secrets and hidden rendezvous. The evidence pointed to a complicated web of relationships and encounters that seemed inconceivable in the quiet suburban town. The police meticulously examined phone records, uncovering late-night calls and cryptic messages exchanged between Linda, Maggie, and the other members of the book club. The investigation revealed a complex network of desire and betrayal, where passion and jealousy intertwined. The motive behind Maggie's brutal murder remained elusive, leaving investigators puzzled. Linda's demeanor during the interrogations only added to the enigma surrounding her. At times, Linda, who hid a passionate and deeply sexual nature, displayed flashes of anger, vehemently denying any involvement in the crime. Yet, in other moments, she exuded an eerie calmness, as if she held the key to a dark secret that could unravel the entire mystery. As Detective Carl Bledsoe and his team continued to piece together the puzzle, they found themselves entangled in a web of deceit and desire, where nothing was as it seemed. With each new lead, the truth seemed to slip further away, leaving the investigators and the community desperate for answers. Karen Evans, a close friend and neighbor of Maggie Luen, became the focus of the investigation as the second suspect in the murder case. Known for her friendly and cheerful demeanor, Karen appeared to be the epitome of suburban normalcy. However, behind closed doors, a darker side of Karen was revealed. During the course of the investigation, it was uncovered that Karen and Maggie had a sexual relationship within the Women's Book Club. While this revelation added a new layer of complexity to the case, it also shed light on a potential motive for the crime. Karen also admitted to feeling jealous of Maggie's sexual encounters with Linda Bernardino Scalco, the leader of the book/secret sex club. The police interrogated Karen extensively, carefully observing her reactions and demeanor. They sought to uncover the truth behind Maggie's murder and determine Karen's involvement, if any. In the interrogation room, Karen's emotions ranged from anger to sadness, as she struggled to come to terms with her feelings of jealousy and betrayal. The investigators probed deeper, questioning Karen about her relationship with Maggie and the dynamics within the book club. As the interview progressed, Karen revealed that she had developed strong feelings for Maggie over time. She admitted to feeling a sense of possessiveness and resentment towards Linda, who had also engaged in sexual activities with Maggie. Karen's jealousy had intensified, leading to a growing tension between the three women. The investigators delved into Karen's background, seeking any possible connections to the crime. They discovered that Karen had a history of emotional instability and had previously sought therapy for her jealousy issues. This revelation added another dimension to the case, as the police considered the possibility of Karen's emotions spiraling out of control. Furthermore, the investigators uncovered evidence that Karen had been researching ways to deal with jealousy and anger. They found books and articles on self-help, anger management, and relationships in her possession. These findings raised suspicions about Karen's state of mind and her potential involvement in Maggie's murder. As the investigation continued, the police meticulously examined Karen's alibi and cross-referenced it with witness testimonies and physical evidence. They also analyzed Karen's phone records, seeking any communication that could link her to the crime. Every detail was scrutinized in their pursuit of the truth. The case of Maggie Luen's murder had taken a complex turn, with Karen Evans emerging as a key figure in the investigation. The police were determined to uncover the truth behind Maggie's untimely demise and determine Karen's role in the shocking crime. The investigation into the murder of Maggie Luen took an unexpected turn as new evidence emerged, providing a glimmer of hope for the dedicated team of detectives. On a frigid January day in 1993, the police made a breakthrough that could potentially crack the case wide open. The weather, a bone-chilling cold that gripped Elgin, Illinois, played a crucial role in this significant discovery. It was on January 27th, when the temperature plummeted to a freezing -10 degrees Fahrenheit, that a key piece of evidence was uncovered. Detective Carl Bledsoe and his team meticulously analyzed the data from various sources, including local meteorological records and eyewitness testimonies. It was during their investigation that they stumbled upon a witness who had been in close proximity to Maggie's house on the night of her murder. Howard Johnson, a resident of the neighboring street, recalled hearing a loud commotion emanating from Maggie's house at around 9:30 p.m. He had been outside, shoveling the snow that had accumulated during the day, when he heard what sounded like a heated argument followed by a series of thuds. Detective Bledsoe immediately recognized the significance of Mr. Johnson's account. The freezing temperatures that night had caused the freshly fallen snow to preserve the footprints left behind by anyone who had been near the crime scene. The detective and his team rushed to Maggie's house, carefully combing through the snow-covered ground for any signs of footprints. Their efforts paid off when they discovered a set of distinct footprints leading away from Maggie's house and towards the nearby park. The footprints were carefully measured and documented, revealing the precise stride length and shoe size of the individual responsible for Maggie's murder. The police compared these footprints to the shoe sizes of the prime suspects, Linda Bernardino Scalco and Karen Evans. The results were shocking. While Linda's shoe size did not match the footprints, Karen's shoe size was an exact match. This revelation sent shockwaves through the investigation team, raising questions about Karen's potential involvement in the crime. With this crucial evidence in hand, the detectives intensified their interrogation of Karen, scrutinizing her every word and reaction. The pressure mounted as Karen's initial calmness gave way to moments of unease and anxiety. The investigation was now on a knife's edge, with the truth hanging precariously in the balance. In the ongoing investigation into the murder of Maggie Luen, a new suspect emerged, Dr. Susan Chiang, a 42-year-old dentist and the newest member of the Women's Book Club. Dr. Chiang, known for her aloof demeanor and mysterious past, had become a person of interest in this chilling case. Dr. Chiang's personal life was shrouded in secrecy, with little known about her background or motivations. However, the police uncovered some intriguing details that may shed light on her possible involvement in this heinous crime. One key piece of information that came to light is that Dr. Chiang did not engage in the sexual activities that took place within the book club. While other members indulged in secret liaisons, Dr. Chiang remained detached, keeping her personal life tightly guarded. Another intriguing aspect of this case was Dr. Chiang's connection to a man named Dr. Dean Luen. It had been revealed that Dr. Chiang had broken the rules of the book club by engaging in sex with a man, none other than Dr. Luen, a fellow dentist, who happened to be Maggie Luen's husband. This revelation raised eyebrows and sparked speculation about the extent of Dr. Chiang's involvement in the unraveling of the book club's secrets. Had she told her lover about his wife's secret sex life? As the police interrogate Dr. Chiang, they carefully observed her reactions and demeanor. Every word, every gesture was analyzed for any signs of guilt or involvement in this heinous crime. She admitted she had told Dean about his wife's dealings and the book club's secret. Might this be the breakthrough the investigators desperately need? The shocking truth behind the murder of Maggie Luen, a seemingly ordinary housewife from Elgin, Illinois, had finally been unveiled. After a thorough investigation, it was revealed that the murderer was none other than Dr. Dean Luen DDS, Maggie's own husband and a local dentist. The motive behind this heinous crime was a toxic combination of jealousy and desire. Driven by his intense longing for his wife and enraged by her alleged betrayal, Dr. Luen confronted Maggie in the bathroom of their home on that fateful day in January of 1993. The details of the confrontation are chilling. In a fit of anger, Maggie admitted that yes, she had engaged in sexual relationships with the members of her women's book club, a secret gathering that turned out to be a lesbian swingers group. This revelation pushed Dr. Luen over the edge, and he resorted to brutal violence, wielding a claw hammer to mercilessly beat his wife to death. The police meticulously pieced together the evidence, uncovering a web of deceit and hidden desires. The investigation revealed that Dr. Luen had discovered his wife's secret through Dr. Susan Chiang, a fellow dentist and the newest member of the book club. Dr. Chiang had broken the rules of the club by engaging in a sexual relationship with Dr. Dean Miller, to whom she divulged the secrets of the book club and Maggie's infidelity. The arrest of Dr. Luen sent shockwaves through the community of Elgin, as the once respected dentist was exposed as a cold-blooded murderer. The media frenzy that followed the revelation of this true crime case captivated Chicagoland, with newspapers and television stations covering every detail of the investigation and subsequent trial. The trial that followed Dr. Dean Lewen's arrest for the murder of his wife, Maggie Luen, gripped the community of Elgin, Illinois in January of 1993. The courtroom was filled with anticipation as the prosecution, led by District Attorney Geppetto Zempic, a proud Maltese immigrant, presented a compelling case against the accused. The defense, represented by Defense Attorney C. Alice Powell, sought to challenge the prosecution's narrative, delving into the complex emotions that fueled the murder. Throughout the trial, the courtroom was packed with spectators eager to witness the proceedings. Local news outlets, such as the Elgin Gazette and the Evening Star, provided updates on the trial, ensuring that the community remained informed. The trial became the talk of the town, with people discussing the case over cups of coffee at the popular local diner, Joe's Cafe. The prosecution painted a vivid picture of the crime, emphasizing the brutality of Maggie's murder and the devastating impact it had on her family. They presented evidence, including the claw hammer used as the murder weapon, which had been found hidden in Dr. Lewen's dental office. The defense, on the other hand, sought to humanize the accused, delving into his troubled past and the complex emotions that led to the tragic event. Maggie's family, including her children Mocha and Tucker, sat through the trial, their grief palpable. They listened intently as witnesses took the stand, recounting the events leading up to Maggie's death. The emotional toll on the family was evident as they grappled with the details that emerged during the trial. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Dr. Dean Luen DDS was found guilty of the murder of his wife. The courtroom erupted with mixed emotions, as some felt that justice had been served, while others questioned whether the punishment was sufficient. The sentencing, which took place a few weeks later, saw Dr. Luen receive a life sentence without the possibility of parole. The impact of the guilty verdict reverberated through the community, leaving a lasting impression on those involved. The Luen family, along with Maggie's friends and neighbors, were forever changed by the events that unfolded during the trial. As the trial came to a close, the community of Elgin slowly began to heal. The book club, once a source of intrigue and scandal, disbanded, its members scattered. The town returned to its familiar routines, but the memory of Maggie's murder lingered, a reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. In the aftermath of the highly publicized trial that captivated the community, life slowly began to regain a sense of normalcy for Susan, Karen, and Linda, as well as the other individuals involved in this tragic case. Dr. Susan Chiang, the 42-year-old dentist and newest member of the book club, found solace in her work. She threw herself into her dental practice, dedicating long hours to her patients and honing her skills. Susan's patients, unaware of her connection to the murder case, continued to trust her with their dental needs, allowing her to gradually regain a sense of normalcy. Karen Evans, Maggie's closest friend and neighbor, found solace in the support of her community. Elgin, Illinois, a tight-knit and boringly suburban town, rallied around Karen, offering their condolences and support during her darkest moments. Linda Bernardino Scalco, the 61-year-old librarian and leader of the Women's Book Club, retreated from the public eye. The scandal surrounding the book club's true nature had tarnished Linda's reputation within the community. She resigned from her position at the local library and relocated to a small town in Florida, hoping to start anew. The Luen children, Tucker and Mocha, sought therapy to cope with the trauma they had endured. Their sessions focused on healing, forgiveness, and finding a way to move forward. Their resilience and strength in the face of tragedy inspired those around them. As the years passed, Elgin, Illinois, a town forever marked by this tragedy, continued to grow and evolve, its residents determined to create a future that honored the memory of Maggie and brought healing to their community. As we conclude this episode of True Crime Case Files, we reflect on the tragic story of Maggie Luen, whose death unlocked the secrets of a women's book club. This harrowing tale serves as a reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. In the heart of Boulder, Colorado, nestled among the majestic Rocky Mountains, lived Daniel Molinsky, a 46-year-old professor with a profound knowledge of geology. His life was a tapestry of dedication to science and personal battles. Yet, these struggles never overshadowed his reputation as a brilliant mind and a cherished educator at the University of Colorado. In March of 1988, the small town of Boulder, Colorado was abuzz with excitement as the spring semester began at the University of Colorado. Daniel Molinsky, with his salt and pepper hair and wire-frame glasses, was a familiar face among the faculty. Known for his captivating lectures on the geological wonders of the world, he had garnered a reputation as one of the most respected professors in his field. His office, cluttered with rock samples and geological maps, was a testament to his passion for the subject. But behind the scenes, Daniel's life was far from perfect. He had battled with alcohol addiction for years, and although he had managed to achieve sobriety, the scars of his past still haunted him. His struggle with bipolar disorder added another layer of complexity to his already turbulent life. Yet, despite these challenges, Daniel remained committed to his work and his family. His son Vincent, a bright and ambitious 13-year-old, was attending the Colorado School for the Deaf. Daniel, wanting to create a comfortable space for his son, had embarked on a project to convert the attic into a bedroom. He spent countless hours researching the best materials and meticulously planning the renovation. The attic was filled with boxes of insulation, tools, and blueprints, evidence of Daniel's unwavering love. Even as he navigated the complexities of his own life and his marriage to his wife, Sandra. Amidst this backdrop, Daniel's death struck a chord of mystery. Was it an unfortunate accident, a desperate act of suicide, or something more nefarious? As we delve deeper into this enigma, we invite you to join us on this journey of discovery. Together, we will explore the life and untimely demise of Daniel Molinsky. On that fateful day in March 1988, the tranquil city of Boulder, Colorado was basking in the warmth of a clear and calm afternoon. The residents went about their daily routines, unaware that tragedy was about to strike the peaceful neighborhood. Daniel Molinsky, a 46-year-old esteemed professor of geology at the University of Colorado, was engrossed in a home improvement project. He had been diligently working on converting his attic into a cozy bedroom for his beloved son, Vincent, a student at the Colorado School for the Deaf who eagerly anticipated the completion of his new space. As the afternoon sun cast its gentle glow upon the picturesque landscape, Daniel, with his tools in hand, ascended the ladder to install a window in the attic. It was a routine task for him, having spent years honing his handyman skills. However, on this fateful day, tragedy struck with a merciless force. In a sudden and inexplicable turn of events, Daniel lost his footing and plummeted to his untimely demise. The deafening silence of the fall was shattered by the anguished cry of Sandra Molinsky, Daniel's wife and a professor of English literature at the same university. The shock and disbelief that washed over her were palpable as she stood there, frozen in the face of this unimaginable tragedy. Sandra, her heart pounding, immediately dialed emergency services, her trembling fingers struggling to find the right buttons on the rotary phone. The authorities were dispatched with urgency, racing against time to unravel the mysteries surrounding Daniel's death. As news of the tragic incident spread, the tight-knit community of Boulder was left reeling. The local newspaper, the Boulder Daily Camera, covered the story extensively, capturing the collective sorrow that gripped the town. Friends, colleagues, and students mourned the loss of a man who had left an indelible mark on their lives. The investigation into Daniel Molinsky's death began in earnest, with the Boulder Police Department meticulously examining the scene for any clues or signs of foul play. The media attention surrounding the case intensified, with television stations like KMGH-TV and KCNC-TV reporting on the ongoing investigation, hoping to shed light on the enigma that had shattered the tranquility of Boulder. The Boulder Police Department swiftly responded to the distress call from Sandra Molinsky, who had discovered her husband's lifeless body. Led by seasoned investigator Detective Michael J. Miller, known for his meticulousness, the team arrived at the scene prepared to unravel the mysteries surrounding Daniel Molinsky's tragic death. The attic, where the incident occurred, was meticulously examined by the investigators. The room appeared to be in pristine condition, devoid of any signs of struggle or disturbance. The investigators carefully combed through every inch of the space, searching for clues that could shed light on the circumstances leading to Daniel's demise. As they meticulously analyzed the attic, the investigators took note of the window that Daniel had been installing before his fall. They examined the window frame, checking for any signs of faulty installation or structural issues that could have contributed to the tragedy. They also inspected the tools and materials present in the vicinity, looking for any potential hazards or malfunctions. To gain a comprehensive understanding of the events leading up to Daniel's fall, the investigators interviewed Sandra Molinsky and other individuals close to the deceased. They learned that Daniel had been working tirelessly on converting the attic into a bedroom for their son, Vincent. It was an ambitious project, and Daniel had been eagerly preparing the space for his son's arrival. During the interviews, the investigators discovered that Daniel had been struggling with bipolar disorder and was a recovering alcoholic. They delved into his medical history, seeking to determine if these factors played a role in his untimely demise. They reached out to medical professionals, seeking expert opinions on the potential impact of these conditions on Daniel's mental and physical well-being. The investigators, determined to leave no stone unturned, reviewed the evidence collected thus far. They consulted with forensic experts, seeking their insights into the cause of Daniel's fall. Every detail was examined, from the angle of the fall to the presence of any substances that could have impaired Daniel's judgment. With each passing day, the investigation grew more complex as the investigators worked tirelessly to uncover the truth behind Daniel Molinsky's tragic death. Sandra Molinsky, a 42-year-old professor of English literature at the University of Colorado, found herself at the center of the investigation into the mysterious death of her husband, Daniel Molinsky. The couple's tumultuous relationship had long been a topic of gossip among their colleagues and friends, with witnesses recalling heated arguments and public displays of discord. One witness, who wished to remain anonymous, claimed to have seen Sandra and Daniel engaged in a heated argument outside a local coffee shop just days before the tragic incident. They were shouting at each other, and Sandra looked furious. The witness recounted, "I couldn't hear the details, but it seemed like a serious disagreement." The police, armed with this information, focused their attention on Sandra as the primary suspect in the case. The investigators delved into the couple's troubled marriage, uncovering a shocking revelation. Sandra had been involved in an illicit affair with Zoe Brunwick, a 22-year-old English literature student at the university. Zoe, a striking young woman with a passion for literature, had captured Sandra's heart and led her down a path of deceit. The affair had been going on for several months, and Daniel, a recovering alcoholic diagnosed with bipolar disorder, had only discovered his wife's infidelity 2 days before his death. Sources close to the couple claimed that Daniel had confronted Sandra about her affair just a day before his tragic fall. The police interrogated Sandra, looking for any signs of guilt or motive. During the intense questioning, Sandra displayed a range of emotions, from anger to sorrow. She vehemently denied any involvement in her husband's death, insisting that their arguments were merely a result of the strain in their marriage. As the investigation continued, the police discovered Sandra's had no alibi for the time of Daniel's fatal fall. They interviewed neighbors, checked surveillance footage, and reviewed credit card statements, leaving no stone unturned. The revelation of Sandra's presence at the house during Daniel's fall added a new layer of complexity to the case. The investigators now had to determine whether Sandra's presence was coincidental or if it held a more sinister meaning. In the investigation into the mysterious death of Daniel Molinsky, a new person of interest emerged, Zoe Brunwick, a 22-year-old English literature student. Zoe's involvement in an affair with Sandra Molinsky, Daniel's wife, raised suspicions and made her a compelling suspect in this puzzling case. At the time of Daniel's tragic fall, Zoe was a student at the University of Colorado, where Sandra also taught English literature. She was a petite and bookish young woman, was known for her love for the novels of erotic novelist Joyce Lehman and her admiration for Sandra's intellect. Zoe's motive for potentially harming Daniel stemmed from her desire to be with Sandra and escape the confines of their secret relationship. The affair had been going on for several months, and the two women had managed to keep it hidden from the prying eyes of their colleagues and friends. It was an illicit love affair that had the potential to ruin both their personal and professional lives. On the day of Daniel's death, Zoe had arranged a secret meeting with Sandra. They had planned to meet at a local coffee shop, the Daily Grind, which was a popular hangout spot for students and faculty alike. The coffee shop was known for its cozy atmosphere and delicious pastries, making it a perfect place for clandestine meetings. The police, aware of this meeting, questioned Zoe extensively about her interactions with Sandra on that fateful day. Zoe displayed a combination of fear and defiance during the interrogation, adding an air of intrigue to the investigation. She adamantly denied any involvement in Daniel's death, claiming that she had no knowledge of his plans or the circumstances surrounding his fatal fall. As the investigation progressed, the police diligently examined phone records, analyzing fingerprints found at the crime scene, and interviewing potential witnesses determined to uncover the truth behind Daniel Molinsky's tragic demise. As the investigation into the death of Daniel Molinsky progressed, the police made a startling discovery. On a day not long after Daniel's tragic fall, they stumbled upon a hidden letter in the possession of Sandra Molinsky, his wife and primary suspect in the case. This letter, written in a state of emotional turmoil, provided a glimpse into the depth of Sandra's affair with Zoe Brunwick, a 22-year-old English lit student. The contents of the letter were both shocking and disturbing. In the letter, Sandra expressed her desire for Daniel to just die, a chilling statement that sent shivers down the spines of the investigators. It also revealed her resentment towards Daniel, blaming him for their son Vincent's deafness. The letter painted a picture of a tumultuous relationship fraught with secrets and hidden desires. The police meticulously analyzed this newfound evidence, hoping it would provide crucial insights into the case. They sought the assistance of forensic experts, hoping to link it definitively to Sandra and establish its authenticity. They also reached out to handwriting analysts to compare the writing in the letter to known samples of Sandra's handwriting. As news of the investigation spread, the media seized upon the sensational nature of the case. Newspapers and television stations across Boulder were abuzz with speculation and theories. Journalists camped outside the Molinsky residence, hoping to catch a glimpse of Sandra or Zoe, who had become local celebrities in their own right. The case took a surprising turn when a witness came forward, claiming to have seen Sandra and Zoe arguing vehemently in a local cafe on the day of Daniel's death. This witness, a regular patron of the cafe, provided a detailed description of the heated exchange, further fueling suspicions of foul play. With each passing day, the investigation into the death of Daniel Molinsky grew more complex. The police painstakingly sifted through the evidence, determined to uncover the truth behind this puzzling case. Vincent Molinsky, the 13-year-old son of Daniel and Sandra, was also present in their Boulder, Colorado home on that fateful day in March 1988. As investigators delved deeper into the case, they considered the possibility that Vincent may have witnessed or inadvertently played a role in his father's death. They meticulously analyzed his movements and actions leading up to the incident, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of the truth. During their investigation, the police discovered that Vincent's current bedroom was located just below the attic where his father met his untimely demise. This detail increased the possibility of Vincent witnessing the actual fall. Furthermore, the investigators interviewed Vincent's classmates and teachers at the Colorado school for the death, seeking any information that could shed light on his behavior or potential involvement in his father's death. They found no evidence to suggest that Vincent had exhibited any unusual behavior or had any knowledge of the events transpiring at his home. In fact, Vincent's teachers described him as a diligent and focused student who showed no signs of distress or distraction during the days leading up to his father's tragic accident. They emphasized that Vincent was fully engaged in his studies in ASL, displaying a keen interest in his classes and maintaining a positive attitude. Ultimately, the evidence pointed to Vincent's innocence. The young boy had been engrossed in playing Super Mario Bros. In his bedroom, completely unaware of the tragedy unfolding in his own home. The investigators concluded that he played no role in his father's death. Following an extensive investigation into the mysterious death of Daniel Molinsky, they have honed in on a prime suspect. Sandra Molinsky, a respected professor of English Lit at the University of Colorado, was charged with the murder of her husband. The authorities diligently pieced together the puzzle, uncovering a web of deceit and betrayal. It was revealed that Sandra had been engaged in a secret affair with Zoe Brunwick, a 22-year-old English lit student. The affair, which had been ongoing for several months, was discovered by Daniel just a day before his tragic fall. This revelation sent shockwaves through the couple's already strained marriage. Witnesses had often seen Sandra and Daniel engaged in heated arguments in public, hinting at the tumultuous nature of their relationship. The police delved into the couple's personal history, discovering that Sandra blamed Daniel for their son's deafness. This revelation added another layer of complexity to the case, as it shed light on the deep-seated resentment Sandra harbored towards her husband. On the day of the incident, Sandra and Zoe had a secret meeting, unbeknownst to Daniel. The police questioned Zoe extensively, her demeanor oscillating between fear and defiance. Her involvement in the affair, coupled with the clandestine meeting, made her a compelling suspect. Crucial evidence emerged when the police discovered a hidden letter in Sandra's possession. The letter, penned by Sandra herself, revealed the depth of her emotional turmoil and her desire for Daniel to just die. It also contained sexually explicit details about her affair with Zoe and her blame towards Daniel for their son's condition. This newfound evidence provided valuable insights into Sandra's mindset leading up to the tragic events. The investigation also focused on Vincent Molinsky, the couple's 13-year-old deaf son. The police initially considered the possibility that Vincent may have witnessed or inadvertently played a role in his father's death. However, after a thorough examination, his innocence became clear. He was merely playing Super Mario Bros. In his bedroom, oblivious to the unfolding tragedy. Through mostly circumstantial evidence, the police built a strong case against Sandra Molinsky. Her motive, the discovery of the affair, combined with the resentment she harbored towards her husband, painted a compelling picture of a woman driven to silence Daniel. The evidence pointed towards a premeditated act planned to appear as an accident. As the case unfolded, the public eagerly awaited the trial of Sandra Molinsky, a trial expected to shed further light on the events surrounding Daniel's death and provide closure for those affected by this tragic loss. The trial of Sandra Molinsky, the primary suspect in the death of her husband, Daniel Molinsky, captivated Colorado in March of 1988. The courtroom, located in the Boulder County Courthouse, a historic building located in downtown Boulder, Colorado, was filled with anticipation as the prosecution and defense presented their cases, each determined to sway the jury in their favor. The prosecution, led by renowned District Attorney Jonathan Thompson, meticulously built his case against Sandra. They presented a series of witnesses, including neighbors who had heard arguments between Sandra and Daniel, as well as friends who had witnessed their strained marriage. The prosecution also introduced evidence of Sandra's affair with Zoe Brunwick, a young English lit student. The defense, represented by Lisabel Thompson, who coincidentally was Jonathan's estranged wife, on the other hand, questioned the credibility of the evidence against Sandra. She argued that the affair between Sandra and Zoe did not prove she was capable of murder. She viscously took apart the police investigation, pointing out inconsistencies and raising doubts about the prosecution's case. As she noted, the evidence was all circumstance and based almost solely on Sandra's failures as a wife. Throughout the trial, the victim's family, including Daniel and Sandra's deaf son, Vincent Molinsky, sat in the courtroom, hoping for justice. Now a 14-year-old student at the Colorado School for the Deaf, Vincent sat quietly, his eyes fixed on his mother. The trial lasted for weeks, with the prosecution and defense presenting their witnesses and evidence. Finally, after careful deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the foreperson stood up and pronounced Sandra Molinsky not guilty. Gasps and murmurs filled the room as the family, the defense, and even some members of the public expressed shock and disbelief. The outcome left many questioning whether justice had truly been served. In the aftermath, the trial of Sandra Molinsky became a topic of discussion among legal experts and true crime fanboys alike. The Boulder County Courthouse returned to its usual business, but the echoes of this captivating trial lingered in the minds of all those who followed the case. In the aftermath of the highly publicized trial, the lives of those involved in the Daniel Molinsky case took divergent paths. Sandra Molinsky, the accused wife, now a free woman, faced the arduous task of rebuilding her life and reputation. She made the decision to return to her home country of the United Kingdom, seeking solace in the familiar surroundings of her childhood. Meanwhile, Zoe Brunwick, the young woman at the center of the affair, quietly graduated from the University of Colorado and disappeared from the public eye. Her whereabouts remained unknown, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. As for Vincent Molinsky, the deaf son of Daniel and Sandra, he embarked on a journey of healing and resilience. With the support of the Colorado School for the Deaf, Vincent found solace in his studies and extracurricular activities. He excelled academically, displaying a keen interest in science and mathematics. Vincent's story of triumph over adversity captured the attention of local news outlets, who dubbed him the deaf prodigy. The Daniel Molinsky case, which unfolded in the tranquil town of Boulder, Colorado, in March of 1988, left an enduring impact on the lives of those involved. The trial's outcome, with Sandra Molinsky's acquittal, left many questioning whether justice had truly been served. The echoes of the case continued to reverberate through the community, serving as a reminder of the fragility of human relationships and the complexities of the human psyche. The case of Daniel Molinsky's death remains an enigma. Was it a tragic accident, a desperate act of suicide, or a calculated murder? Despite the acquittal of Sandra Molinsky, the truth remains elusive.
Lena Klunding was a 36-year-old kindergarten teacher living in Tucson, Arizona. She worked at Sunshine Elementary School, where she was loved by her students and colleagues. Known for her patience and kindness, Lena was the type of teacher who made learning fun and exciting. She often used colorful posters in her classroom, making sure every child felt special and included. Lena lived in a cozy house on a quiet street with her husband Richard and 11-month-old son Dolphin. Her friends often said that Lena's home was filled with laughter and warmth. She had a knack for decorating and often shopped to find perfect items to make her house a home. Lena's family was very important to her. She was close to her parents, who lived nearby and often helped with Dolphin. Lena dreamed of opening her own daycare center someday, where she could help even more children grow and learn. Lena's friends described her as caring and always willing to lend a hand. She was the type of person who would drop everything to help a friend in need. She volunteered at her local church and was involved in community events. Her warm personality and dedication to her work made her a cherished member of the community. In September 2010, Lena was busy preparing for the new school year. She spent her days setting up her classroom, planning lessons, and making sure everything was perfect for her students. She also spent a lot of time with Dolphin, planning a big celebration for his first birthday. She wanted it to be a special day, full of balloons, cake, and love. She had even ordered a custom cake from a local bakery and invited all her family and friends. In the days leading up to her death, Lena was looking forward to the future. She was excited about the new school year and celebrating Dolphin's first birthday. Her dreams of opening a daycare center and her plans for her son's future were a testament to her loving and nurturing spirit. On the morning of September 12, 2010, the sun was shining brightly in Tucson, Arizona. It was a warm, pleasant day, typical for that time of year. At around 8:00 a.m., Patty Martins, Lena Kleindine's close friend and neighbor, decided to check on Lena. They had planned to go for a morning walk, something they often did together to stay fit and catch up on each other's lives. When Lena didn't show up at the usual time, Patty became worried. Hattie walked over to Lena's house, which was just a few doors down from her own. She knocked on the door, but there was no answer. She called Lena's phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Feeling uneasy, Hattie tried the door and found it unlocked. She slowly stepped inside, calling out Lena's name, but the house was eerily quiet. As Patty made her way through the house, she noticed that everything seemed normal at first. Dolphin's toys were scattered in the living room, and the kitchen had breakfast dishes on the table. But when she reached the bedroom, she was met with a horrifying scene. Lena's lifeless body was lying on the floor, and the room was in disarray. The TV was smashed, and a mirror was shattered, indicating a struggle had taken place. Patty was in shock and felt a wave of fear and sadness wash over her. She quickly grabbed her phone and dialed 911, her hands trembling as she tried to explain what she had found. Her voice was shaky, and she had to repeat herself several times before the operator understood the gravity of the situation. Patty stayed outside, pacing back and forth, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't believe what had happened to her friend. Neighbors began to gather, whispering among themselves and speculating about what could have led to such a tragic event. The news quickly spread, and soon local media outlets like the Tucson Sentinel were reporting on the shocking discovery. Lena's death sent shockwaves through the community. People who knew her were heartbroken and in disbelief. How could something so terrible happen to someone so kind and loving? As the police began their investigation, everyone hoped for answers and justice for Lena. When the police arrived at Lena Klondine's house on September 12, 2010, it was a warm, sunny morning in Tucson, Arizona. Detectives J. Ramirez and Maria Torres, known for their fast response and careful attention to detail at the investigation. The patrol car's flashing lights quickly drew the attention of neighbors, who watched anxiously from their yards and windows. Detectives Ramirez and Torres were both experienced investigators. Ramirez, a tall man in his early 40s, was known for his methodical approach and calm demeanor. Torres, in her late 30s, was sharp-eyed and known for her ability to notice even the smallest details at a crime scene. Together, they made a formidable team. As they entered the house, they were met with a grim scene. The living room showed no signs of a struggle, but the bedroom told a different story. Lena's body lay on the floor, with clear marks of strangulation on her neck. The room was in chaos. A TV lay shattered on the floor, and a large mirror was broken, its shards scattered everywhere. It was clear that a violent confrontation had taken place. The detectives began their investigation immediately. They called in a team of forensic experts who meticulously collected evidence from the scene. They took fingerprints from the broken TV and mirror and gathered samples of hair and fibers that might have been left by the attacker. They also photographed the entire room, documenting the disarray and any potential clues. Outside, neighbors gathered, whispering and speculating about what had happened. Reporters from local news stations like KVOA and the Tucson Sentinel arrived, setting up cameras and interviewing anyone willing to talk. The community was in shock, struggling to comprehend the tragedy that had struck their quiet neighborhood. Detective Ramirez spoke briefly with the media, asking for anyone with information to come forward. He emphasized the importance of community cooperation in solving the case. Meanwhile, Detective Torres interviewed Patty Martins, who had discovered Lena's body. Sarah, still in shock, described finding the door unlocked and a horrifying scene in the bedroom. Back inside, the forensic team found traces of DNA on Lena's body and under her fingernails, likely from trying to fight off her attacker. They bagged these samples carefully, knowing they could be crucial in identifying the killer. They also discovered a set of muddy footprints near the back door, suggesting the attacker had entered or exited through there. The initial investigation painted a picture of a violent struggle, but many questions remained. Who could have committed such a brutal act? And why would anyone want to harm Lena, a beloved teacher and mother? Detectives Ramirez and Torres were determined to find answers and bring justice to Lena and her family. The first person the police investigated was Richard Klondine, Lena's husband. Richard was 38 years old and owned a local hardware store called Klondine's Hardware. He was well-liked in the community for his charming personality and his knack for helping customers find exactly what they needed. However, those who knew him well knew he could also be secretive and controlling behind closed doors. When detectives J. Ramirez and Maria Torres arrived at Richard's store on September 13, 2010, he seemed calm but surprised to see them. They informed him about Lena's death and asked him to come to the station for questioning. Richard agreed, though he appeared anxious as he closed up his shop, a popular spot among locals for home improvement supplies like tools and paint from well-known brands like DeWalt and Sherwin-Williams. At the station, the detectives started with basic questions. Where was he on the night of the murder? Richard claimed he had been out of town on business, meeting with suppliers in Phoenix, 100 miles away. He provided the name of the hotel where he stayed and said he had receipts to prove it. He seemed confident, but the detectives knew they needed to verify his alibi. As the questioning continued, Richard's demeanor shifted. He became more defensive and agitated, particularly when asked about his relationship with Lena. He admitted they had been having marital problems, but insisted he loved her and would never harm her. The detectives noted his change in behavior, but needed more concrete evidence to link him to the crime. While Richard was being questioned, other officers checked his alibi. They contacted the hotel in Phoenix and reviewed security footage. Richard's name was indeed on the guest list, but the detectives found something odd. The footage showed Richard leaving the hotel late at night and not returning until the early hours of the morning. This raised suspicions, as it meant he could have traveled back to Tucson during that time. Detectives Ramirez and Torres pressed Richard further, asking about his whereabouts during those hours. Richard grew more agitated and struggled to provide a clear answer. He claimed he had gone for a drive because he couldn't sleep, but his story lacked details and consistency. As they left the station, Detective Ramirez told Torres they needed to follow every lead. They were determined to uncover the truth about Richard and his potential involvement in Lena's tragic death. The second person the police investigated was Laura Lizarda Klondike, Richard's secret second wife. Laura was 44 years old and worked as a hospice nurse at St. Mary's Hospital in Tucson. She was dedicated to her job and known for her kind and caring nature. In her spare time, Laura was an activist, campaigning for public schools to teach students about extraterrestrial civilizations, such as the Vulcans and the Klingons. Detectives J. Ramirez and Maria Torres visited Laura at her home on September 14, 2010.
Laura was visibly shocked and distressed when they told her about Lena's death. She invited them inside and tried to stay calm as they began their questioning. Her son, 16-year-old Mark Lizarda, was also home but stayed in his room, listening anxiously. The detectives asked Laura about her relationship with Richard. She revealed that she had been married to Richard for 2 years, but only recently discovered his marriage to Lena. Laura said she felt betrayed and heartbroken by Richard's deceit. She insisted she had no idea about his double life until a few days ago when she found suspicious documents in his belongings. Laura provided an alibi for the night of Lena's murder. She said she had been working the night shift at St. Mary's Hospital. She gave the detectives the names of her coworkers who could confirm her presence. Detective Torres took detailed notes and assured Laura they would verify her alibi. Despite her distress, Laura cooperated fully with the investigation. She handed over Richard's documents, which she had kept hidden after discovering them. These included financial records, phone bills, and a mysterious report about Richard's activities. The detectives thanked Laura for her help and left to follow up on her information. At St. Mary's Hospital, the detectives spoke with Laura's coworkers, who confirmed she had been at work the entire night. Security footage from the hospital also showed Laura working her shift, which seemed to clear her of any involvement in the murder. However, the detectives knew they couldn't rule out the possibility that she might have known something more about Richard's activities. Laura's cooperation and solid alibi made it difficult for the detectives to consider her a primary suspect, but they were still cautious. They decided to look deeper into Richard's life and any connections he might have had that could shed light on the case. The mysterious report Laura provided hinted at more secrets, possibly related to Richard's business dealings. As they continued their investigation, Detectives Ramirez and Torres remained determined to uncover the truth. Laura's revelations added new layers to the case, making it clear that Richard's double life had far-reaching consequences. On September 18, 2010, a week after Lena Klondike's murder, the weather in Tucson, Arizona, was unusually cool and cloudy. Detective Maria Torres was at the police station, reviewing the case files, when she received an urgent call from a local garbage collection worker who had found something suspicious while collecting trash in a neighborhood not far from Lena's home. Detective Torres and her partner, Detective J. Ramirez, quickly headed to the location, a shopping plaza that housed popular stores like Safeway and Walgreens. The bag looked out of place, and the garbage worker, knowing about the recent high-profile murder, thought it might be important. The detectives carefully opened the bag and found several pairs of men's underwear. A dead end. Meanwhile, the mysterious report Laura Lizarda Klondike had given them earlier became even more relevant. It detailed Richard's involvement in money laundering for Mexican cartels, which explained why he was so secretive. The detectives realized that Richard's illegal activities provided a strong motive for him to silence Lena, who might have discovered his crimes. With the new evidence and a clearer picture of Richard's motives, Detectives Ramirez and Torres felt they were closing in on the truth. They knew they needed to interrogate Richard again, this time confronting him with the damning evidence they had uncovered. As they prepared for this critical step, they hoped to finally bring justice for Lena Klondike and her grieving family. As the investigation continued, Detectives J. Ramirez and Maria Torres turned their attention to Mark Lizarda, Laura's 16-year-old son. Mark was a high school student known for his intelligence and strong bond with his mother. His relationship with Richard, his stepfather, had raised some eyebrows in the community due to their unusually close bond. On September 20, 2010, Detectives Ramirez and Torres visited Mark at his school, where they met with him in a private room. Marky Mark was visibly nervous but agreed to talk. The detective started with general questions about his relationship with his mother and Richard. He spoke fondly of both but admitted that things had been tense since the discovery of Richard's double life. When asked about the night of Lena's murder, Marky Mark claimed he was home playing video games and chatting with friends online. He provided the detectives with the names of his friends, who later confirmed his story. However, there was something about Marky Mark's demeanor that made the detectives suspicious. He seemed too eager to prove his innocence and stumbled over his words when discussing his whereabouts. Despite his alibi, the detectives felt that Marky Mark might know more than he was letting on. They decided to dig deeper into his online activities. They obtained a warrant to search his computer and found that on the night of the murder, Marky Mark had searched for information on how to cover up a crime and how to dispose of evidence. This discovery was alarming and made him a key suspect. The detectives brought Marky Mark back in for further questioning. This time he was more agitated and defensive. He claimed the searches were for a school project, but the detectives didn't believe him. They pressed him harder, and under the pressure, Marky Mark finally broke down and confessed. He admitted he had found out about Richard's bigamy before his mother and feared losing him as a father figure. Marky Mark's confession shocked the detectives. The investigation had revealed the dark side of a seemingly normal family, uncovering secrets that would forever change their lives. On September 22, 2010, Tucson, Arizona police were ready to make an arrest. The sky was clear, and the temperature was climbing towards the typical desert heat. Detectives John Ramirez and Maria Torres had gathered enough evidence to confront Marky Mark Lizarda, the 16-year-old who had confessed to killing Lena Klondine in a fit of rage and desperation. Marky Mark's motive was to maintain Richard Klondine as a father figure in his life. He feared losing Richard after discovering his bigamy and was jealous of the role his first family played in his life. In a moment of panic, he broke into Lena's house on the night of September 11, 2010. Inside, a violent confrontation ensued. Lena fought back, but Marky Mark overpowered her, strangling her with a rope he had brought. The struggle left the bedroom in disarray with a smashed TV and a shattered mirror. The detectives pieced together the timeline using surveillance footage, the gas station receipt, and Marky Mark's own internet searches. They knew they had their murderer. On the morning of September 22, they drove to Marky Mark's home to make the arrest. The neighborhood was just starting to wake up, with children waiting for the school bus and people heading to work. Marky Mark was in the living room when the detectives arrived. His mother, Laura, opened the door, her face pale and strained. The detectives explained that they were there to arrest her son. Laura's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded, allowing them inside. Marky Mark didn't resist as the detectives handcuffed him and read in his rights. He looked more resigned than surprised. As the police led Marky Mark to the car, Laura broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Neighbors watched in stunned silence, unable to process the scene unfolding before them. The arrest of a teenager for such a brutal crime was unimaginable. In the days that followed, the police continued to uncover more about Richard's illegal activities. The report Laura had given them detailed his involvement in money laundering for Mexican cartels. This led to Richard's own arrest and conviction, adding another layer of betrayal and deceit to an already tragic story. Marky Mark's arrest and the subsequent revelations about Richard brought a dramatic end to the investigation. The community was left to heal from the wounds inflicted by the crime, knowing that justice had been served, but at a tremendous cost. The trial of Marky Mark Lizarda began on December 1, 2010, in Tucson, Arizona. The courtroom was packed with media, community members, and the grieving family of Lena Klondine. The prosecution was led by District Attorney Michael Jackson, a seasoned lawyer known for his no-nonsense approach and dedication to seeking justice. Jackson, 45, had a reputation for being tough but fair, and he was determined to secure a conviction for Lena's brutal murder. On the other side was the defense attorney, Sarah Jean Miller. At 38, Miller was a rising star in the legal world, known for her sharp mind and ability to connect with juries. She argued that Marky Mark, being only 16, should be tried as a juvenile and highlighted his troubled upbringing and the influence of Richard Klondine as mitigating factors. The prosecution presented a strong case, focusing on the overwhelming evidence against Marky Mark. They detailed his confession, the forensic evidence linking him to the crime scene, and his internet searches on how to commit murder. Jackson argued that Marky Mark's actions were premeditated and that he should be held fully accountable for his heinous crime. The defense, however, painted a picture of a vulnerable teenager manipulated by his stepfather, Richard. They argued that Marky Mark's actions were those of a desperate young man who feared losing the only father figure he had ever known. Miller called several character witnesses, including teachers and friends, who spoke about Marky Mark's generally good behavior and his struggles with his home life. She urged the jury to consider his age and psychological state. After several days of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict on December 15, 2010. Marky Mark was found guilty of second-degree murder. The judge, taking into account his age and the circumstances, sentenced him to 25 years in prison. The sentence was seen as a balance between punishment and the possibility of rehabilitation. For Marky Mark, the sentence marked the beginning of a long road ahead. He would serve his time in a juvenile facility until he turned 18, after which he would be transferred to an adult prison. The trial's outcome left a lasting impact on all involved, a sobering reminder of the far-reaching consequences of one tragic night. After the trial, life slowly began to return to some semblance of normalcy for those affected by Lena Klondine's tragic murder. For Lena's family, the pain of her loss remained, but they found solace in each other and in the memories they shared. Dolphin, Lena's 8-month-old son, was the light that kept them going, a constant reminder of her love and legacy. For Richard Klondine, the trial marked the end of his deceitful life. With his arrest and conviction for money laundering, his empire of lies crumbled, leaving behind a trail of destruction. The revelation of his crimes shocked the community and tarnished the reputation of his hardware store, once a staple in the neighborhood. Laura Lizarda Klondine faced the difficult task of rebuilding her life after the betrayal of her husband and the loss of Lena. She threw herself into her work as a nurse, finding solace in helping others. Her activism took on new meaning as she advocated for victims of domestic abuse and campaigned for stronger laws to protect families from similar tragedies. As for Marky Mark Lizarda, his life took a drastically different turn after the trial. Incarcerated in a juvenile facility, he had plenty of time to reflect on his actions and the consequences of his choices. With therapy and counseling, he began to confront his past and work towards rehabilitation. Despite the severity of his crime, there were those who believed in his potential for redemption and hoped that he would one day find a path towards healing and forgiveness. As life moved forward, the memory of Lena Klondine remained a beacon of love and hope in the hearts of those who knew her. Her legacy lived on in the lives she touched and the lessons learned from her tragic death. The murder of Lena Klondine is a tragic reminder of the hidden secrets and dangerous lies that can lurk behind closed doors. In the face of unimaginable loss, her family and friends continue to honor her memory, cherishing the warmth and kindness she brought into their lives. Jake Malton was 35 years old when he died. He lived in Naperville, Illinois, a peaceful suburb near Chicago. Jake was a well-respected man with a sharp mind and a charming personality. He worked as a finance manager at a local investment firm, where he was known for his leadership skills and dedication. He had graduated from Northwestern University with a degree in finance and was seen as a rising star in his field. At home, Jake was a loving father and devoted husband. He lived with his wife, Laura Beth Malton, and their 2 children, Ponderosa and Arson. Jake had a passion for sailing Lake Michigan and spent many weekends at the local marina with his children. His kids loved these outings, and Jake often talked about buying a small sailboat. He was also an active member of the community, participating in local events and charity drives. Jake's personality was a mix of professionalism and warmth. He was friendly and approachable, making him well-liked by his colleagues and neighbors. Jake dreamed of one day taking a sabbatical to spend more time with his family and perhaps travel around the world. In the days leading up to his death, Jake was busy planning a family vacation to the Bahamas. He wanted to surprise his children with the trip, and they were excited about it. In February of 2012, Naperville was frigid, with temperatures often dipping below freezing. The local news was buzzing about the upcoming Super Bowl. Jake, a fan of the Chicago Bears, enjoyed discussing the games with his friends. He was also a subscriber to the Wall Street Journal and kept up with the latest news in finance and business. Jake and his family lived in a comfortable home in a quiet neighborhood. Their house was always warm and inviting, with a cozy living room filled with family photos and mementos from their trips. The Malton family was close-knit, often spending evenings together watching movies or playing board games like Monopoly and Scrabble. In his professional life, Jake had recently been working on a big project at his firm, which had been taking up a lot of his time. Despite his busy schedule, he always made time for his family. His colleagues admired his ability to balance work and family life so well. Jake's dreams and plans for the future were cut short by his tragic death, leaving a void in the lives of those who knew and loved him. On the morning of February 18, 2012, at around 7:30 a.m., a tragic discovery was made in Naperville, Illinois. Laura Beth Malden, Jake Malden's wife, woke up and found her husband's body lying next to her in their bedroom. He had been shot twice. The room was eerily clean, with no signs of a struggle, which suggested that the crime had been planned. Laura Beth, upon finding Jake dead in their bed, was in a state of shock. She immediately called 911, her voice shaking as she spoke to the emergency operator. The operator tried to keep Laura Beth calm while dispatching police and emergency services to their home. Laura Beth's voice trembled as she described finding Jake. Her words were frantic, and she could hardly believe what she was seeing. The operator stayed on the line with her until help arrived. When the police arrived, they found Laura Beth sitting on the floor outside the bedroom, crying and holding her phone. The house was in perfect order, except for the horrifying sight in the bedroom. Jake was lying on the bed, and it was clear he had been dead for several hours. The officers immediately secured the area and began their investigation. By mid-morning, the news had spread throughout Naperville. Local news channels like NBC Chicago and newspapers such as the Chicago Tribune began reporting on the incident. The media coverage added to the tension as reporters and cameras gathered outside the Malden home. As the day went on, the police continued to piece together the events leading up to Jake's death. Laura Beth was taken to the station for questioning, still in a state of shock. The detectives knew they had to act quickly to solve the mystery of Jake Malden's death. On February 18, 2012, the police arrived quickly at the Malden home in Naperville, Illinois. They entered the quiet, neat house and found Laura Beth Malden sitting outside the bedroom, crying. The officers immediately secured the area and called in detectives. Detective Jason Hollis and Detective Sarah Lee Green, both experienced investigators, arrived soon after. Hollis was known for being methodical and detail-oriented, while Green had a reputation for her sharp intuition. They began by carefully examining the bedroom where Jake Malden's body was found. The scene was eerily tidy, with no signs of a struggle, suggesting that the murder had been carefully planned. Jake had been shot twice, and there was no sign of forced entry into the house. Detectives Hollis and Green used various tools to investigate the crime scene. They sprayed luminol, a chemical that glows blue in the presence of blood, to check for any traces that might have been cleaned up. They also took photographs and collected fingerprints from around the room. Forensic experts arrived to gather evidence, including fibers and hair samples, which they bagged and tagged for further analysis. The detectives then moved on to interviewing Laura Beth, who was still in shock. She told them that she had woken up to find Jake dead beside her. Her statements were emotional and confused, making it hard for the detectives to get a clear picture. The officers also spoke with the neighbors, but no one had seen or heard anything unusual, except for one elderly neighbor who mentioned hearing a loud noise the night before. As the investigation continued, the detectives discovered that Jake had been shot with a small-caliber handgun. They searched the house thoroughly, but did not find the weapon. This made them suspect that the killer had taken it with them. They also checked the security cameras in the neighborhood, hoping to find any clues, but the footage did not reveal any suspicious activity. The detectives knew they had to work quickly. They analyzed the evidence collected from the scene, hoping to find leads that would point them toward the murderer. The tidy crime scene, the lack of forced entry, and the missing weapon all suggested that the killer was someone who knew Jake well. Detectives Hollis and Green were determined to uncover the truth and bring justice to Jake Malden. The first suspect in Jake Malden's murder was his wife, Laura Beth Malden. Laura Beth was 32 years old and known for being outgoing and sociable. She had a passion for literature and loved hosting book clubs and charity events at their home. People in the community described her as warm and generous, but lately, some friends had noticed she seemed more withdrawn and anxious. Given that she had easy access to Jake's bedroom, the police had to consider her a suspect. On February 18, 2012, after the police secured the crime scene, Laura Beth was taken to the police station for questioning. The detectives, Jason Hollis and Sarah Lee Green, wanted to know more about her relationship with Jake and her activities the night he was killed. During the interrogation, Laura Beth was visibly upset. She was crying and seemed very confused. Her voice trembled as she explained that she had woken up and found Jake dead beside her. Detective Hollis asked her detailed questions about their relationship, and Laura Beth admitted that they had been going through a rough patch. She mentioned that Jake had been very busy with work and that they had been arguing more than usual. Detective Green asked about the gun used in the murder. Laura Beth denied knowing anything about it. She insisted that she did not own a gun and had no idea where it could have come from. The detectives noted that Laura Beth's responses were emotional, and at times she seemed overwhelmed. Her demeanor was a mix of sorrow and confusion, making it hard for the detectives to determine if she was hiding something or genuinely shocked by her husband's death. As the interrogation continued, the detectives learned more about the Moultons' financial situation. Laura Beth mentioned that Jake handled most of their finances and that she was not aware of any major issues. However, she did know that Jake had been stressed about a big project at work. Meanwhile, the police continued to gather evidence from the Moulton home. They searched for any signs that could link Laura Beth to the crime. They checked her phone records, emails, and social media accounts, looking for any clues. Despite the lack of clear evidence pointing directly at Laura Beth, her emotional state and proximity to the crime made her a key figure in the investigation. The detectives knew they needed more information to either confirm or dismiss their suspicions about her involvement in Jake's death. The second suspect in Jake Moulton's murder was his boss, Merle O'Brien. Merle was 48 years old and known as an ambitious, driven man. He had built his investment firm from the ground up and was described as a workaholic. Merle was meticulous and sometimes ruthless in his business dealings. Recently, Jake and Merle had disagreed over the direction of the company, leading to tension between them. On February 19, 2012, the day after Jake was found dead, detectives Jason Hollis and Sarah Lee Green brought Merle in for questioning. Merle arrived at the police station in a neat suit, looking calm and composed. He greeted the detectives with a firm handshake, showing no signs of nervousness. Detective Hollis started by asking Merle about his relationship with Jake. Merle admitted that they had disagreements, but insisted it was nothing out of the ordinary for business partners. He spoke highly of Jake's skills and expressed shock at his death. Detective Green then asked about the night of the murder. Merle provided an alibi, stating he was at a company dinner event. He even named several colleagues who could confirm his whereabouts. The detectives also questioned Merle about rumors that Jake was planning to report him for sexually harassing secretaries at the firm. Merle's demeanor shifted slightly, but he remained composed. He denied any wrongdoing and suggested that Jake might have been mistaken or misled. The police also investigated Merle's financial records and found that Jake had been handling a major project that could have impacted the company's future. This project had been a source of their recent disagreements. The detectives considered the possibility that Merle had a financial motive to get rid of Jake. As the questioning continued, Merle kept his composure, calmly answering all of the detectives' questions. He maintained that he had no reason to harm Jake and that their disagreements were purely professional. Detective Hollis and Detective Green noted that while Merle seemed to have a solid alibi, his motive couldn't be ignored. They decided to verify his alibi by speaking with his colleagues and checking the event's guest list. They also continued to look into the company's financial dealings, hoping to find more clues. Despite Merle's calm and collected responses, the detectives knew they had to keep investigating all angles. Merle remained a key suspect as they worked to uncover the truth behind Jake Moulton's murder. On February 21, 2012, 3 days after Jake Moulton's death, the weather in Naperville was cold and overcast. At around 10:00 a.m., a breakthrough in the case occurred. A neighbor, while walking her dog near the Moulton home, was shocked to find a small handgun in a nearby park. The park was a popular spot for families and dog walkers, making it an unusual place to find a weapon. The neighbor immediately called the police. Detectives Jason Hollis and Sarah Lee Green were informed about the new evidence. They felt a sense of urgency as they awaited the forensic results. Later that afternoon, the forensic team confirmed that the handgun was indeed the one used to kill Jake. The discovery of the gun was a significant development in the investigation. The detectives reviewed the security footage from the park but found nothing suspicious. They decided to canvass the neighborhood again, hoping to find witnesses who might have seen someone disposing of the gun. They spoke with several residents, including an elderly neighbor, who mentioned seeing a woman walking toward the park late at night, but she couldn't identify her. As they investigated further, Detective Hollis found fingerprints on the gun. The prints matched those of Marie Castelchant, the Moultons' next-door neighbor and a close friend of Laura Beth. Marie was known for being kind-hearted and loyal. This connection made her a key person of interest. With this new evidence, the detectives felt they were getting closer to solving the case. The discovery of the gun and the connection to Mary added a new layer of complexity, but it also brought them one step closer to finding Jake Malton's murderer. The third suspect in Jake Malton's murder was Marie Castelchin, the Maltons' next-door neighbor. Marie, 38, was known for her kindness and loyalty in the community, but she harbored a secret life as well. Under the alias Cookie LaGuardia, Marie worked as a stripper, a fact that added a layer of complexity to the investigation. On February 22, 2012, detectives Jason Hollis and Sarah Lee Green brought Marie in for questioning. The day was cold and cloudy, typical of February in Naperville. Mary looked nervous as she entered the police station, aware that her fingerprints had been found on the gun used to kill Jake. Detective Hollis started the interrogation by asking Marie about her relationship with the Maltons. She admitted that she and Jake had been having an affair, but insisted that she had nothing to do with his murder. Marie explained that she had been home alone the night Jake was killed, which made her alibi weak. Detective Green then asked about the handgun found in the park. Mary became visibly anxious and struggled to explain how her fingerprints ended up on the weapon. She said that Jake had visited her a few days before his death and brought the gun with him. According to Mary, Jake was worried about their affair being discovered and wanted to protect her. However, this explanation seemed suspicious to the detectives. The police also discovered that Jake had secretly mortgaged his house to pay Mary's bills. This financial connection added another layer to the investigation, suggesting a possible motive for Marie. Despite her calm and kind demeanor, the detectives knew they had to dig deeper into her background. As they questioned Marie further, the detectives noticed inconsistencies in her story. She initially claimed she had no idea Jake was playing to Ziegler the night of his death, but later admitted he had called her earlier that day. Detective Hollis pressed on, asking why she hadn't mentioned this earlier. Mary became flustered and started to stammer. To gather more evidence, the detectives decided to search Marie's home. They found letters from Jake expressing regret over their affair and hinting at emotional manipulation within his marriage. These letters provided insight into Jake's state of mind and suggested that he was planning to confess to Laura Beth and end the affair. Detectives Hollis and Green knew they had to proceed carefully. They continued to investigate Mary's connection to Jake, hoping to find the evidence needed to solve the case and bring justice for Jake Malton. On February 23, 2012, the police in Naperville, Illinois, were ready to make an arrest in the murder of Jake Malton. After days of investigation, they had gathered enough evidence to identify the murderer. The police had pieced together a tragic story of betrayal, financial stress, and emotional breakdown. The detectives found a crucial piece of evidence in Jake's home office, a letter he had written to his children, Ponderosa and Arson. In the letter, Jake expressed regret and guilt over his affair with Marie Castelchin. He also mentioned his plans to confess to Laura Beth and end the affair. The letter showed a darker side of Jake, hinting at emotional manipulation within his marriage. This letter, combined with the evidence gathered, pointed to Laura Beth Malton as the murderer. Detectives Jason Hollis and Sarah Lee Green arrived at the Malton home at 9:00 a.m. to arrest Laura Beth. The morning was cold, with a light snowfall covering the ground. Laura Beth was in the kitchen, making breakfast for her children. When the detectives informed her of the arrest, she was visibly shocked. She broke down in tears, repeatedly screaming, "Let those without sin cast the first stone." The detectives carefully explained the evidence against her. They mentioned the financial stress caused by Jake's secret mortgage to pay Mary's bills and the emotional toll of discovering his affair. They also pointed out the letter Jake had written, which showed his intention to confess and the manipulation within their marriage. Laura Beth's world had been shattered by these revelations, leading her to a breaking point. Laura Beth was handcuffed and taken to the police station. The local news stations, including NBC Chicago, quickly picked up the story. Reporters gathered outside the Malton home, capturing the moment as Laura Beth was led away by the police. The community was in shock, struggling to comprehend how a seemingly perfect family could be torn apart by such a tragedy. At the police station, Laura Beth made a chilling confession to the murder. She explained that she had found out about Jake's affair and the financial problems he had caused. In a moment of utter despair and emotional breakdown, she had shot Jake in their bedroom, unable to cope with the betrayal and stress. She admitted to disposing of the gun in the nearby park, hoping to distance herself from the crime. The arrest of Laura Beth brought a sense of relief to Jake's family and friends, but it also left them with a deep sadness. They struggled to understand how things had gone so wrong. The detectives felt a mix of satisfaction and sorrow, knowing they had solved the case but also aware of the devastating impact on the Malton family. The trial of Laura Beth Malton began on May 15, 2012, in Naperville, Illinois. The courtroom was packed with local residents, reporters from NBC Chicago, and members of Jake Malton's family. The atmosphere was tense as everyone awaited the outcome of this tragic case. The prosecution was led by Assistant State's Attorney Michael Health Backley, a 45-year-old known for his strong sense of justice and meticulous preparation. Health Backley argued that Laura Beth had carefully planned the murder of her husband, driven by jealousy and financial stress. He presented evidence of Jake's affair with Marie Castelchin, the financial problems due to the secret mortgage, and the letter Jake had written, which showed his intention to confess and end the affair. Health Backley painted a picture of Laura Beth as a woman pushed to the edge, ultimately committing a desperate act of violence. The defense attorney, Dorothea Blake, a 38-year-old with a reputation for her empathetic approach, represented Laura Beth. Blake argued that Laura Beth was a devoted wife and mother who had been emotionally manipulated by Jake. She claimed that Laura Beth's actions were the result of a momentary breakdown caused by extreme emotional distress. Blake highlighted Laura Beth's clean record and her dedication to her family, suggesting that she was not capable of premeditated murder. As the trial proceeded, the emotional toll on Jake's family was evident. His children, Ponderosa and Arson, were seen in the courtroom, supported by other family members. They appeared heartbroken and confused, struggling to understand the events that had led to their father's death and their mother's trial. After 2 weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for 3 days. On June 1, 2012, they returned with a verdict of guilty of second-degree murder. The judge sentenced Laura Beth Malton to 20 years in prison, considering the emotional distress she had been under, but also the severity of her crime. The reaction to the verdict was mixed. Jake's family felt a sense of justice, but were also saddened by the reality that Laura Beth, someone they had known and loved, was responsible for his death. Some community members felt the sentence was too lenient, while others believed it was fair given the circumstances. The trial and verdict had a profound effect on everyone involved. Jake's family and friends were left to pick up the pieces, struggling with the loss of both Jake and Laura Beth. The community of Naperville was deeply affected as they had lost a respected member and witnessed the unraveling of what seemed to be a perfect family. In the aftermath, discussions about emotional health and the pressures of maintaining a facade and seemingly perfect lives became more prominent. The trial had not only brought closure to Jake's murder, but also shed light on the underlying issues that led to this tragic event. After Laura Beth Malton's trial and sentencing, life in Naperville slowly returned to normal, but the effects of Jake Malton's murder lingered in the community. The Malton children, Ponderosa and Arson, were taken in by their grandparents, who provided them with love and stability during this difficult time. They received support from neighbors and friends, who rallied around them in their grief. Meanwhile, the Malton family home became a quiet reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded there. The neighbors, who had once seen the Maltons as a model family, now whispered about the secrets that had torn them apart. The local newspaper, Naperville Sun, covered the aftermath of the trial extensively, reflecting on the impact of the case on the tight-knit community. Laura Beth Malton began serving her sentence at White Correctional Center, a women's prison in Illinois. Her adjustment to prison life was difficult, as she navigated the challenges of being away from her children and coming to terms with her actions. Reports from the prison mentioned that Laura Beth kept to herself, spending her days reflecting on her choices and participating in prison programs aimed at rehabilitation. The trial also sparked discussions in Naperville about the pressures of maintaining appearances and the impact of emotional distress on individuals and families. Some community members advocated for better mental health support, while others emphasized the importance of open communication in relationships. In the years following the trial, Ponderosa and Arson grew up surrounded by love and support from their extended family. They remembered their father fondly and cherished the memories they had of him sailing and enjoying family vacations. Their resilience and strength became a testament to the community's ability to come together in the face of adversity.